We can all come to order. We'll get started. It says here, please silence your cell phones, public and members. Opening prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Ask Dan to do the prayer, and if Kevin can do the pledge.
Father God, thank you for this day, this board, the PID staff, this audience. Just as you invited a rebellious nation to come and reason together, give us your strength and wisdom as we reason together to conduct the people's business with honesty, humility, and civility. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, ready, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jordana.
Director Dan Whiteland.
Here.
Director Ann Rice.
Here.
Director Mark Soler.
Here.
Vice President Cliff Jacobson.
Here.
President Bill Follow.
Here. Does, on approval of consent agenda, does anybody want to move the agenda order as published?
Yes. I would like to move the unfinished business A and B to new business, and I would like to change the order from B to A.
What is that again?
A was presentation of resume by Gene Massa, and B was district manager appointment review. And I think it's more appropriate to go through B first and then look at A afterwards.
Anybody object besides me?
Is there, what's the reason for, do we have somebody coming here to?
No, they're not unfinished business. They're both new business, and they're, in my opinion, inappropriately in unfinished business. And I think the order needs to be reversed because it makes sense to address B before A.
So wouldn't it be more logical to address B before C? Because if B is passed,
Well, yes.
then there'll be no need for C.
Well, C is C, so if we address B,
But you're moving B.
First.
But you're moving B to new business. So then that would be after C.
yeah, you're right. So
So to leave it the way it is.
I don't know that we can do anything about the unfinished business. It is what it is, but we could table it long enough to get into new business because it seems more appropriate that we discuss B first, then A, and then if neither one of those have a positive outcome, then we would discuss C.
Yeah, that's logical to me too.
Right.
But because C is definitely unfinished business, then you'll have to leave A and B in that.
Well, we can leave them in unfinished then and reverse it from B to A. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there's no requirement to take on unfinished before you take on finished. It's however you guys want to handle it
Okay,
Yeah.
in any order that
But
you
we all agree we should do A and B before C. Yeah, we all agree.
okay, thank you.
Leave it the way it is. And I understand that A is information only, not action taken. Is that correct?
No, yes, when I got to it, that was going to be changed.
Okay.
And I really didn't plan on having any action taken on it when I submitted it to the agenda, but I forgot to say anything when I left.
then no action. You don't have to take action
Yeah.
just because action may be taken.
May
So it's
doesn't mean.
information only?
Yes.
It's just information.
Okay.
Okay. So let's just leave it the way it is. Is that
Sure.
all right?
What are we doing now? Are we leaving it the way it is?
Yes.
Then let's just leave everything.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I would like to reverse the order when we do get to, I don't care if you call it unfinished business, but I'd like to go with B first and then A afterwards, if that's okay.
He's just asking the other directors. Of course, I'm
Makes no
not in
difference.
favor of it, but
Makes no difference to me.
Okay with me.
okay,
Seems
please tell
un-
me outright, because I can't hear all of you.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay to change
Do we
it?
have a motion to
For
do
B to be
that?
first.
Okay.
To reverse?
No, there's no need to
You don't
have
need for a
it as
motion?
Can't take consensus
Okay,
first.
thank you.
Okay.
And on the consent calendar, Ann wants to take out C and D, and we'll come back to them and take them on as individual things. So the consent calendar now is approval of minutes of a special meeting May 31st and regular meeting on June 21st. And I have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So approved.
A second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Ann, what would you like to do with those?
I just, these concern acceptance of an easement and acceptance of a conveyance for easement, and I'm a novice at all this, and it may be that other board members aren't, but it may be that some of the public are, and I would just like Kevin to explain what's going on.
Yeah, so, and actually it's perfect because Neil's here too. Neil works on these for us. And so he can kind of maybe explain the details behind the two of those. I'll get to the conveyance.
Well, he's getting up. May I ask, why is this happening if Elliott Road is never going to be going through, at least as far as we know?
Well, I can't see into the future, but I believe the town of Paradise has taken an interest in this project as well, and they have conditioned that the Risley's
Okay.
offer for dedication some land to the town.
Really, because of years ago they tried to get it through, and there were so many legal hurdles 25 years ago at the town, they just said, that's it, we're going to give up.
There may still be insurmountable.
I think it's still in the transportation plan, though. It's still in there.
Yeah, it was there forever, but then they
Yeah.
took it out when now they'd have to buy houses and stuff. But,
Right.
Okay.
Would you just explain to us what this easement is, what it is and what it's about?
The easement from Nathaniel and Jennifer Risley has to do with a parcel map that they brought forward to the town, and it's creating 4 parcels from what was 1 parcel. And basically, they, as a condition of their map, they need to provide service to the parcels 3 and 4, which are not contiguous to a district main. Parcels 1 and 2 are contiguous to the district main that's in Kibler Road. But the district rules say that when you subdivide land like this, you need to provide access to the water utility. And so, as a condition of the map, they were required to either extend a main along this portion of Elliott Road that is envisioned for someday in the future, or covenant to do that in the future. And so they opted to covenant to do it, but they needed to, at this time, dedicate the easement. Because right now, one party holds all the lands that would be dedicated. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to sell off parcels 2, 3, and 4 to different individuals.
And come back
then
later,
maybe
yeah.
the owner of parcel 4 wants to develop parcel 3 and parcel 2. They're not interested in doing anything. How do you get them to come forward with the easement that's needed for parcel 4 to be able to do their job, which basically the first person to develop one of those, I think it's parcels 2, 3, or 4, is the way it's written. They have to extend that water main then. So that would be something that's a condition on the map, so that anybody who buys one of those parcels knows that if they want to build a house on there, and they're the first one in line, that's going to be a condition of getting a building permit from the town of Paradise.
So as I understand it, they're giving us easement so that we can put a water line there, and there's no monetary
Yeah, there's no
change.
exchange of money in connection with this. This is just setting the land aside. Actually, it's an easement. It's not fee title transferred to the PID.
Right.
It's easement across those lands to accommodate someday a future
Okay.
extension date.
Thanks. Thank you. And then on the second one, it was a conveyance.
Right, this one is a conveyance pipeline and easement. This is for a subdivision map at the end of Schmally Lane,
Lane.
which is, for people who aren't familiar with that particular street, it's at the intersection of Skyway and Neal. If you go across the street, across Skyway from Schmally, you come to Neal, so that's where it's located. And this is the very end of the street. It's a fairly nice, large piece of property that was divided into 14 lots, and the developers of this property put in the water main and the fire hydrants and all of the necessary paraphernalia to put in a complete water system. And that was required for them because they were doing a subdivision map, which generally has more stringent conditions than a parcel map. And so all those facilities are in, and by this document, they're conveying to us those facilities, as well as the easement that underlies those facilities, so that we have the ability to access those facilities to maintain them in the future.
And again, there's no monetary
Nope.
exchange, but we are putting in pipeline at
No.
a value of $149,000, was it?
They're
We're,
giving us.
we're gifting it to them because, excuse me, he's gifting it to us because they're all in and done. He did it himself.
Oh, okay, so
He
we're
did.
receiving, okay, thank you.
He finished the development himself completely, and he's just handing it to the town and PID.
Okay, thank you. I'm all new with this, and maybe some of the audience isn't familiar as well, or other board members, so I'd just like to have it explained.
Which we now have to maintain.
Now there are facilities.
Now they're ours.
Okay,
And we inspected
much, Neil.
that pipeline, right? We inspected it when they put it in. We inspected
Yes, our people inspected
Yeah.
the pipeline installation.
okay. Thank you very much. So, if there's any more discussion? I move to accept the consent calendar items 2C and D.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Public participation in,
That wasn't me.
Can you do that to my phone, too?
okay. Public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda. Although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for public comment on agenda items will be provided at time they are discussed by the board, and comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. So do we have anybody that has something that's not on the agenda that they want to speak to the board about? Okay.
Nice quiet audience tonight.
We'll see. Huh?
Yes. That's correct.
Might show up yet.
Did somebody check to see if he was okay?
He is. He's out of town. He's on vacation.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Committee reports. And we just have one, Special District Leadership Academy Conference, July 9th and 12th. And Ann's up on this.
I did attend the conference. I found it invaluable. I will be sharing some written and oral presentations with the board in the next few months, but I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Kevin, your report.
Yeah, you have my written reports. The budget's coming. It's slowly but surely coming. We've had some internal budget workshops, and so we're revising a few and getting a little more detail on some of the capital projects so that they're a little more detailed, and so that there's a good explanation. It just seems like we have a lot of capital projects, and we're really having to focus on prioritizing those capital projects. So I'm making it so that there's availability in there to prioritize those, and then also there's abilities for the board to make some other decisions. So I've factored in some things. So on our next budget workshop for the board, it should be the final one, but it doesn't mean that just because it's coming out to you guys in a written form doesn't mean that there's not going to be changes available to you. So you'll still have a lot of interaction with it. It'll be a working document at that time. So once we're done working through that document, that'll be the final budget, and then we'll be able to print and send. So that's where that is. We have been working. There's been a kind of a little bit of a snafu with the 3 acres that we purchased up at the lake. We went through and we've gone through all of the purchase. But there's a issue with a clean title, or it's a certificate of compliance because that is all deemed 5-acre minimums up there, and we bought 3 acres. And so we're having to work with our surveyor, who I believe does not want to work with the county anymore. So we're going to have to probably go out to look for a new surveyor to do a lot line adjustment, and just basically what we're going to do is absorb that 3-acre parcel into our other parcels surrounding it.
How the heck did we ever miss a 5-acre minimum purchase?
There was communications with the surveyor back and forth with the county, and I think that there was a misdirection going on somehow, and I'm not sure, but we're working through that, and we're still working with the state to move that grant to that location. So we're kind of working both sides of the aisle here. The processed water recycle project, we're still looking. Our RFP is still out there, and we're kind of trying to prod some of these firms to give us a bid on what we're looking for.
Have we had any communication back from any of
We've
the
had
people we
communication
solicited?
back that there's some firms that are not going to bid on the project. So we haven't had any communication back on the firms that are going to bid on the project.
What about the individual firm that we were talking about that had referenced this as their experience?
Jim just got an email back from them that they're not interested in bidding on the project. So I'm going to, I might reach out personally and see if there's some way that we can make this work. Maybe work with Jim on that, and go down and maybe meet with him personally to see if we can kind
Did they give any reason?
of, not in detail. Yeah, so I'll give him a call and see. That was just happened this evening, so so we'll try to make sure that we get the right person.
That's disheartening.
The other thing on that is that Doug Barber, who is the report writer that we've been working with, has taken a position at CAL FIRE, so he no longer will be with the regional board. So as the world turns, we'll continue to work in that to try to get this thing completed. So the B Reservoir Design Project. Waterworks Engineering, is it Waterworks? Yeah, Waterworks Engineering is working through the design process. They've come up with some ideas, and they're looking to actually have a meeting with the board to have what is it called? A workshop. Okay, a workshop to go over their thoughts on the design of that. And they were looking at August 9th and 10th on that. So if you guys could check your calendars, you don't have to do it right now, but as we go forward, to maybe call a special meeting to meet with them to go over that, and we could incorporate that, maybe have that first, and maybe do a budget workshop after that, and to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So August 9th and 10th is the numbers or the dates we're throwing out right now. Spillway investigation. I'm going to just save my comments on that until we get to it in the agenda. And the PG&E DeSablo Centerville Powerhouse, Chico ER actually had an article on that, and that they're looking for proposals on that, but we haven't seen any type of communication back from us, other than that they sent us a timeline that was pretty aggressive on what they thought they were going to get rid of it on.
Yeah, I was surprised about that too.
I have a thought process. I read that article also, and at first I was a little disappointed because it seemed like there were 4 firms that expressed interest that have experience in running small cogens or small power plants. Then the thought came to me that they want to run the power plant to get the power. We want the water rights. Maybe we should partner with whoever takes that thing over and work out an agreement where we can get the water rights and the water, and they can get the power that they're looking for.
Through some kind of agreement, you're right, yeah.
I think that the paper is really optimistic on how quickly this is going to transpire. I just don't see it with the environmental issues out there associated with it, the water releases, the water rights. I just don't see it's going to happen. I think it's still going to be a long process. So I don't think that we need to be overly aggressive on our position at this point. But I think that is definitely an option.
Yeah.
For sure, and I think it would probably be a really good option.
Did anybody read the News and Review and their articles on it? They had two.
They were up there.
And the second one was talking about the people concerned with the salmon run and the environment and how they were sorry to see PG&E pulling out because they worked with them so well. So whoever comes after them is going to, that's water rights for the fish there. So
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of environmental issues associated with that.
Good old California.
Me and Emily have been working with IBW on the contract, and then the retirement plan selection. So we received our proposals back from the retirement plan RFP. There was 8 RFPs that we received back. All were very qualified firms. So there's been an email out to the selection committee on that to see if they can get in there and start looking at the RFPs. I think with 8, I don't think that it's going to be necessary for them to come and present to the selection committee. I think there's enough information within the RFPs, the proposals, to vet a certain amount of them out and maybe select a top 4 or 5 that then could present to the employees. I think that's where the meat and potatoes is really going to come out of that. So we have scheduled for employee presentations August 14th through the 18th. So that's a week. And so if we can narrow them down from within that week of July 31st to the 4th, then we can schedule them on the 14th through the 18th to present to the employees, and then have the employees score them. And then from the scorings, we could narrow that down to the board presentations. So we could bring back maybe the top 3, if there's really close 4 board presentations on the week of the 28th through the September 1st, however that works, so just kind of general. And then for the board to select a new retirement plan provider on the September 20th. It's an aggressive timeline, but I think it's doable. And I think that whoever we select will be a very qualified, quality firm. So
Did you say by, excuse me, September 20th, is that what you said?
that's what I have kind of as my time.
who's on the selection committee?
Who's on the selection committee? It would be Dan and Cliff
and I
from
are.
the board, and then from the management team it's Keith O'Brien and Bill Taylor, and then from the IBEW group it's Laura. Were you on the selection committee too? Yeah, Neil. Okay. Neil also, sorry to exclude you. Neil is on there too. From the IBEW group, it's Laura, Rick Steyer, and I don't think Jeremy was. It's Greg Dobbs. Greg Dobbs was.
I think for me, the important thing is that we have good representation from the employee side, because I think
Right.
Dan and I are probably in agreement on this. We'll be looking to them for who it is they want. So we want to make sure that they represent the bulk of the employees.
So just to let you know, once it goes to the selection committee, whoever the selection committee selects is going to present to the complete employee group. So they're not going to, it's going to be everybody.
Oh, good.
So everybody will be hearing the top, whatever the selection committee selects as their tops. So they will have an abundance of information from every
Will that information be conveyed to the board?
board. Yeah, and the selection
I mean,
committee members can be here during the presentations,
I might like
but also all the information gathered from the employee presentations will be part of the board selection.
Good, okay.
I have another question. I've got a copy of what the employees first asked for, and in the first, I thought the board agreed with this, but the first, number 1 is secure a third-party financial auditor to go over the results of FTJ's findings and verify that each person has been made whole. Have we done anything like that?
That's in the process.
We have it's in their hands at this point. We've met with them a couple times over it, and we're coming to an understanding of what's going to fulfill their needs and what kind of scope of work are they looking for. So at this point, we haven't heard anything back on the scope of work that they're looking for on that.
From who did you talk to?
From the selection committee, I believe, is who we met with. And they were supposed to go, and actually the IBEW rep was in there last time we met with them too. So we've met with both groups on that.
Thank you. Do you have anything else that someone would like to ask Kevin? Nobody from the public want to ask a question? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
The cash position is the next thing.
Yep, so treasurer's report. I did put a new graph in there that kind of states out our reserving policy, and did point out that there was a few little snafus in my calculations, but I did go back and correct, which I appreciate. But currently our cash position's at 2.33 million, and you can see where our restricted reserves are. You know, I haven't put this in there before, but we have a sick and annual leave fund that we have to identify every year. And what that is you at the end of the year, you add up all of the leaves that people have earned. So for our employees, everybody earns their vacation. So if someone was to leave tomorrow, they get paid out for their vacation. And then there's a sick calculation. So as employees are here for a longer period of time, they actually get a percentage of their sick payout. So you have to take both of those into consideration and figure out, if you shut the doors tomorrow, how much money would you have to pay out to those employees? So that's what that sick and annual leave fund is. The bond reserve fund and the PFD fund, we've kind of went over that. And then the reserving policy has 6 different priorities: an operating fund, a water rate stabilization fund, emergency fund, drought management fund, equipment replacement fund, and long-term capital fund. And when it was established back almost a year ago, the board selected the priorities of each one of those funds and how they would be filled. And then they put in minimums that they would like to see filled before the next one starts to be filled. And so what I did is, I'm going to continue to do this to show where our reserves are and how much is funded in each one of those priorities. So as we get $1.2 million of unrestricted reserves in the operating fund, then you'll start seeing it pour over into the water rate stabilization fund, and then so on and so forth. That's going to be part of the budgeting process too, which I've included in there. So, but from where all of our debt's paid, it's the end of the year. Operational standpoint, expenses were right on budget. We're actually a little bit below budget.
That's good.
I'd want to go back to the restricted funds. I don't see any money coming into the facility capities.
Yes. So before, what we've done is, and this was a decision by the board when we went through that whole process of eliminating all the facility fees, was that there's projects that we could do on an annual basis that would actually eat up those facility capacity funds, instead of restricting them and carrying them over and over and over and over again, creating this big balance that you have to find a project that you're going to use it on. So pipeline replacement actually is a project that you can use those funds on. So that's what we've been using those funds on in the current year, was paying for a replacement of pipe that we are actually doing because it's increasing capacity within the district.
My understanding was a capacity fund, just like its name, was that you're replacing a 4-inch pipe with a 6-inch pipe.
Right.
You'd increase capacity, and then the funds could be used for that.
And then we're doing that currently right now. So we're replacing, I believe it's 4-inch on Country Club to 6, 8-inch. So we are currently actually increasing capacity within the district.
Thank you.
Yep. Consumption revenue is below estimated, below budgeted of $447,000 this year, and we're gonna adjust our budget this current year. We really kind of dropped that down. We assumed that we were going to get 90% of 2014 consumption. It's just not bouncing back like we thought it would. We're still seeing record lows of production up at the treatment plant. And so we're gonna drop that back down to where it's about 80% of 2014, which 2014, if you remember, had 20% from 2010. Was a 20% reduction from that. So we've almost got a 40% reduction from 2010 to now. We're just seeing record low production numbers. So we're gonna adjust that down so that it's more in line with what we're seeing coming forward.
Kevin, I was wondering if you'd make quarterly adjustments to that instead of waiting like what we've done here.
Yeah, we could do quarterly adjustments. It would just take board action to do a budget adjustment. So
And to me, it would look better. I mean,
It would.
it's building like this.
You're
It's,
10% off,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really
Also-
alter anything.
I know it doesn't change
That's
anything,
true.
but
Strictly
I think
shifting
it would show that we're on top of it. That's kind of my thinking anyway.
Do like a mid-year adjustment?
Yeah.
we could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that coming up, and we could do a quarterly adjustment. We could do mid-year adjustments.
I did notice in looking at the audited return that even though income was slightly down, expenses were down greater. And other than if you offset the accumulated depreciation deduction, we actually did better this year than we did in 2015 when we had more water coming in.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah.
so to me, from a financial standpoint, I'm looking at that, that's positive. I
Yeah,
like that.
we did a lot. We were adjusting on the fly in 2016. We were definitely, we were not filling positions. We were cutting expenses. As things were going, we were making a lot of adjustments inside.
And it shows that I remember early on when I got on the board and you talked about eliminating expenses on employee benefits and things like that. And that does show in this because I see a big drop in that
Correct.
over 2015, so.
Right.
Also, I was wondering what you might consider the revenues for next year's budget based on this year's instead of 2014, or?
Yeah, I basically adjusted them down to this year's
Okay.
revenue. Actually, I adjusted them even a smidge down, just a smidge down.
Be conservative?
Yeah, to be a little conservative.
But oops, no.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
And then just my final point, there's areas in these pages where things don't add up or they're entered twice, what have you. And so when we do our budget workshop, we're going to get a corrected version of this.
Yep, it'll be all nice and neat.
Thank you.
Easy.
All I was going to say, Ann, is of course it's always hard to know because if you just put it in last year's, they've cut the consumption. I'm sure reduction is due partially to the fact that we're fixing leaks and the fact that it was a rainy year, both. But
I see,
because it
yeah.
was a super rainy year, if we adjust to this last year and then this year ends up being a hot and sweaty one and we use a lot of water in the lawns, then of course that's the reason you put something in once a year, guess, and then
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I was just going to say, my lawns are getting kind of yellow. Is it okay if I turn my water up?
I would love for you guys to use one.
Mine's going up right now.
I got the official okay now.
don't we get free water of those of us on the board?
You wish.
I had a question on seeds. It's got down $17 million for 2016, 17,
We're-
on page 30.
40,
30,
30? Yep, okay.
last column.
yeah.
Oh, 17 million on the 2016-17 budget? Yeah, so what we estimated at that point was we were going to get $15 million in debt proceeds from the process water recycle project.
ACOM, yeah.
And then there was a portion of that also that was going to be the B-res. So that's that 17 million. I can tell you right now, I'm not estimating that in the current budget year. So
Thank you.
Are we
the
still?
one thing that we are looking at, which could be a real big shot in the arm for the district, is, and it's part of this the agenda tonight, is that the SRF funding and getting all of those design monies that we spent out of reserves back into our pockets through that SRF funding. And there's options out there that we're looking into to have a lot of that as principal, not a lot, but a portion of that as principal forgiveness. So that'd be free money basically back in our pocket that we had spent out. So that could be a real big shot in the arm for the district's cash positions.
Are we still applying for the money for this 17 million or 15 million?
We've switched kind of. We're applying for the construction's costs, but what we're doing is we've kind of split the application in two. So we're applying for design monies up front, and then once the design monies come out, then that's where you would have a better idea of what your hard cost construction cost monies would be.
For what?
For the process water recycle, however that needs to be done.
Whatever project it is, we're just calling it the process water.
The ultimate project, whatever it ends up being, yeah.
So whatever project it is, we're still applying for monies for that. But we don't know what project it is at this point.
Yeah, I've been told by other districts that to get that money is very difficult.
It is difficult, but it's worth the cost and worth the effort. Extremely worth it. And we're right there. We've been approved for the construction side, so we're just trying now to split that. And we've been approved for the design and construction, but it's been one package. Now we're just trying to split that package into two.
We still have to jump through on construction regarding design and CEQA, of course. But
Yeah.
that was the process.
Okay,
For
what-
construction part.
Now, which one project are you talking about? There's,
We don't know yet.
in here it mentions the bladder dam, not the bladder dam, the
B-res.
B-res on funds. And are you talking about that or something else?
No, we're talking about the process water recycle project. Even though it's kind of got that name through this whole thing, it's the NPDES permit renewal and all of whatever we have to do to meet those requirements. That's what we're talking about. So what we've gotten is we have a B-res over here, which the B-res project is what we're trying to do. The B-res has it split to a design and to a construction. So the design portion will be paid out as we expend money, and it'll be funded through that. And then once we get the design done, then the construction monies will be sitting there available for us to use in construction. For the process water recycle project, it was all approved as one big package, which meant that you had to get the CEQA done to get monies because the CEQA was required for construction. So what we're trying to do is split that out so that you have the design monies here and the construction monies here. The design monies don't require CEQA to be completed before you can get reimbursed for those monies. The construction portions.
Did we ever get CEQA done?
We're still, no, we haven't got CEQA done. We were, yeah.
It's changed.
By changing the direction of the project, there's no project to get the CEQA done. So by splitting them up, we have now time available to identify the project. Once we identify the project, then we can now then get CEQA done on the construction.
Who are we talking to do the CEQA?
Right now, we're not talking to anybody because we don't have a design.
There's no final project yet.
Yeah, there's no project yet.
Because we shifted gears and we decided we weren't going to do the recycle
No, I
as per the
understood that,
ACOM.
and that CEQA went away, and we didn't pay for it.
So we don't have a CEQA going on right now because we need to find a project.
Okay, so thank you.
Yep.
On the next page, I had some questions too.
Go for it.
31. Miscellaneous on the budget. It's all over the place. It's 15 and 16, it was 40,000. No, that's interest. I'm sorry, 56,000. Now this 52,000, and now it's 117. Is there any way we can describe what those miscellaneous things?
What page are you on?
Page
31.
31.
Under general fund miscellaneous, I think.
Georgianne, can you go to 31?
I can describe them as there's a lot of them. What are they? Are they like reimbursements for certain things? We'll get checks back through OCTA JPIA for having claims or something like that they collected too much money, so they'll give kind of a reimbursement back on that. I can get more detail on the miscellaneous expenses, but or miscellaneous revenue. If I can get that back to you. I don't know exactly everything in there, though.
Okay, it's just 100 on the budget you got down, it's
117, yeah.
8,000. Yeah, I thought that was quite a bit of miscellaneous.
But the actual was 52,591.
Right. Yeah, I can get you detail behind that.
And then have we received any grants at all, special revenue funds?
Not yet. I mean, we've received grant work through other agencies, but specifically us getting grant funds, we have not. But we're beating the streets right now hard with grants.
Is that lady still looking for grant funds?
We're in the process of looking for grant funds from Cal OES for the Spillway issue, which we'll get to. And then we just submitted a questionnaire. They had some questions on the Cal OES grant for the hazard mitigation grants that has for the new generator, for the A-zone upgrades, and all that good stuff. We just submitted the questions on that to them back as of 4 o'clock today.
You talked at one board meeting about looking at another grant writer.
Correct.
Yeah,
We have
have you
another-
talked to her?
Yes. She's working right now with us to try to get OES grant funds for
Oh,
the
the new
Spillway.
lady's working with you? So we have 2 grant writers working now?
We do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Then on 33, I have a question.
Okay.
On the bottom of it, it's got board expenses,
Yep.
111,000, and then the next shows 185,000?
Yeah, we estimated 185 for the budget. It came in at 111. That was most of that's election expenses.
Is what
Special elections
expenses?
and current general elections expenses.
I can't understand.
Election expenses,
Oh, okay.
general election, special election.
That should be a pretty
They
low.
estimated
low
that
bu-
much, but it was less.
Next year,
Low
yeah.
budget item next
Next
year,
year, yes.
very low.
You've
Yeah.
got this year's budget for,
Yeah, that's last year's budget.
huh?
That's just last year's budget.
That's last year's budget.
This year's
Okay.
budget will probably have just board expenses, which normally each board member in the past has had $3,000 of travel expenses, $15,000 total. That's probably what it'll be.
Have we been billed yet from the county for the special election?
Yeah, I think we were.
Billed and paid and approved
Billed
and
and paid.
done a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thanks. Couldn't remember.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've got other things circled, but I'm not going to ask any more questions.
Okie dokie.
Well, I guess I make a motion, we consider approval of general check fund numbers 50682 through,
You have to
You
approve
have to
my
do the treasurer's report first.
I have to approve
Yeah.
the,
And does the
treasurer's
public
report.
want to speak on the treasurer's report?
okay?
Does the public?
Bill, maybe
You're supposed
Public
public
speak
wants
for
to
the treasurer's report, Bill?
yeah, any questions,
I've
Lauren?
already got past that point. We jumped into checks before that?
Those about $5 too. Lauren Harvey. You brought up the 8-inch water line down on Country Club. I'm here in my circles, which is mainly coffee shop, that you're going to put in all new water meters down there. And I was wondering if that's so, because we bought all those plastic ones and put in already. So I was wondering if there's a reason, or if that's just false information, or what? Or is Country Club going to get new water meters? That's my question. Does anybody know that?
No, they're not. I don't believe so. No.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know.
We're getting new services. Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren, I think they're relocating some of them closer to the roadway because some of them were really far back into the properties, so they're pulling them up to the road. Maybe you had that happen?
Meter wasn't changed,
Oh,
but we've noticed some that have.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
irregular.
Yeah.
Or it's specific to the meter.
yeah. They should be close to the road for service purposes. But yeah. Good, thanks.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
Any other questions by anybody?
Now you
How
can
about you,
do it.
Reedy? I know you were talked in Toastmasters this morning about the noise on the road.
As we're on the budget, one of the things that I was trying to address many months ago, I think it was at the last time that we were doing the budget, the proposed budget a year ago, and we brought up the capacity fee fund. And I did notice, it's on the page prior to this, that it had increased from the $25,000, which I just saw online for that past budget, and now it's up to the $48,000, which is a figure that you had given to us at a finance meeting that we were at. But my question is, when you made the statement that when we get the capacity fees in, we already have a project going, so we're not putting them in the fund, we're just putting them directly into the project. And that doesn't sound like a good accounting practice if we're trying to relate to how much is coming into that fund. That's because that's the one that's restricted. You put it into a project and it becomes mixed with other monies.
I can answer the question. At every audit, I detail out the capacity fee funds and I detail out the expenses associated with those for approval from the auditor that they're projects that meet the criteria for those funds. So it's separated. So you take them into the capacity fee fund, and then you have a project that meets the requirement for those funds to be used. So then you take those funds and use them for that project. So it is being tracked on a separate basis, and the expenses are being shown that what is being brought in is being expended.
Well, there's been a little bit of rhetoric with not necessarily with the board, but that we're not doing any building, we're not doing new meters to build the capacity fee fund. And today, weren't we just talking about a 14 house project on Schmally? Was that where that's at? And there's 2 down on Tokay Court right now. There's going to be 2 right across the street from me in the lot that the PID is running, where they're storing all of their materials for this project. You know, so there's building going on, and it would be nice to see that kind of specific as to how, you know, what the new projects are, if that is sound revenue, and not have it mixed so that we can't see it. And my concern last year was the 1.4 million that was pulled out of the capacity fees for the project design, and now that is being merged into this new project as under project design. So it just gets confusing. I'm not financially savvy on everything, but that was one thing that I was following, and I couldn't follow it. And it should be a simple thing to follow. That's my question. I understand your answer, but I still would like to see it more clearly depicted for people that might be of interest of where that revenue goes, and not just have it under, you know, behind, I can't say hidden, but, you know, not visible.
Yeah, so the revenue for the current year is $57,000. That's capacity fees that have been collected. It's not detailed, but it's sitting right there. If you wanted to see the detail, I could show you the detail.
I might come and look at it.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rini.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Rini. Anybody else have questions?
Rini, I might also add to that, it's pretty likely that this 14 lot project, it might have even been in the previous year, just because of the length of time that it takes to process something. It takes so long when you make application to actually get to where you have to pay all the fees up front, and then it can take 2 years to get a project even rolling. And I'm just guessing from having dealt with the town, et cetera. It takes forever. So it might even have been 2 years ago that was paid. We don't know. So.
I'll comment on it, because years ago the fund was constantly there and was increasing, and then I asked Dustin at a meeting, I said, how is this capacity fee? Can you define it for us? And he says, anything that increases capacity in the district. So somehow that was transferred over to the process recycle plant. That's how we paid for the plant. We drained the capacity fees. So I thought it was a rather broad definition, but that's what happened to them.
If we need to visit that, I guess we can do that. So sometime let's agendize that and look at it and see if we need to maybe change the verbiage on it. I'm not saying that it should be, but it's a legitimate question. We can pursue it.
It seems legit that if you had to increase capacity, you have to increase something at the water treatment plant as well as distribution. So it seems like an appropriate expense to me.
Yeah, technically, everything to do with the recycle project was for capacity, 424 or 6 MGD. So it was actually, everything was sized for build-out to increase capacity, technically.
Yeah. But there again, you see.
Actually, I was not complaining about where the money went.
Yeah.
I was just explaining to
Right.
you where it did go
Yeah.
at that time. And I'm not, at any rate, that's how the money was raised to design the water treatment plant. And it was supposed to only cost $1 million, and of course, it ran over budget, and we only got 70% done. Can I have a motion now to approve the...
Move we approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
Any more questions by anybody? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll do the check register. And we'll start with Dan. Just come on down in order.
I had a number of questions came in today. Kevin answered everything. Thank you.
I have no questions.
Mark?
I don't either.
I have none.
Okay, well, I got a couple, so I'll ask them. Grant Management Associates, $2,206. Is that the older
New
one
one.
we've been working with, or is that the new one?
New one.
Okay.
She's working on a OES grant that had a really aggressive timeline on it, and we were able to get the application in time for to help us with the work plan and the what?
Spillway.
Right, the spillway, wasn't it the spillway? Yeah. And for the assessment that is in the agenda.
It's going to be back in the report later.
Well, that's what she helped us with, to try to get monies to support, to pay for what is coming up in the future on the agenda.
But that's on for the spillway.
Correct.
Right.
So we're going to actually maybe have some money to help. Maybe, okay. Cross the fingers. Gray matter computer, there's a couple here on page 39. One for $600 and some dollars, other $646. I was just curious what they were for.
Those are ones for, are they both for computers?
Yeah, both gray matter
Windows 10
computing.
Pro.
Yeah. So one's, Nikki can answer that one, I'm just going to give it over.
One for the shop, a replacement computer at the shop, and one was a replacement computer at the office.
Okay. And they had you put it out to bid and all that?
Yeah, we get bids on that. And just so you, since I get to speed up on this, before I came into my position, we were spending $1,200 on a computer. We've cut that almost in half, and we're doing pretty pleased.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Mickey. Office Depot comes up several times. I remember back when we used to use mail order for the office supplies. This is back a few years, and I was wondering, is there any looking into mail order being cheaper than Office Depot on some of these supplies?
This is all online, and they deliver it the next day. So we don't, it's not like we're walking into Office Depot. This is all online purchases through Office Depot. They have a government rate, and we have looked into other areas, and you just can't beat Office Depot government rate.
Oh, okay. They're
And
giving
then
you a special
and it
rate.
arrives the next day. It's pretty amazing.
Government
Yeah.
discount.
So there's,
You can be forgetful and still get it.
yeah. And I think you need only $25 or $50 minimum or something like that to get the next day.
Well, that's all my questions. Questions from the audience? On check agenda, do we have a motion to approve it?
Go ahead.
I make a
We had a second,
motion,
didn't we?
we consider approval of general fund check numbers 50682 through 50831 for the month of June 2017, totaling $429,875.02, exclusive of voided check numbers 50792 and 50809, and authorization of a similar amount allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of July 2017.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Emily.
Transmission, wait a minute, I'm getting away from the agenda, let me take a minute.
Staff and building reports.
Legal report.
I just have two items. The first is to provide an update on the state mandate test claim case that's been ongoing. I think last month I shared that we were looking for amicus briefs and that the briefing process was still ongoing. It has now concluded. All of our briefs are in. The state has responded with their answer. That's in. And so now we wait. And the third DCA will take it up at some point. I wouldn't expect that to be anytime soon.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said, the very first
part?
sentence. The very first
I
sentence.
couldn't either, but I've been the one
Sorry.
saying I can hear all day.
About the what this is about? Yes, the state mandate test claim that has been ongoing. Sure, sorry. That's been ongoing. All the briefing has been completed. The state has answered. It's all now under submission to the court. At some point, they'll take that up. I don't expect that to be anytime soon. We're kind of hoping for within the year. But we'll see, and we'll let you know as soon as we hear anything on the calendaring for that. The second item is just an update on urban conservation. The Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Water has asked that stakeholders submit their written comments and opinions on the committee's intent to enact legislation necessary to help make conservation a California way of life. Remember Governor Brown's proclamation that that's the direction we're headed. So Aqua has put together a committee. We've been participating in that committee. I think maybe yesterday Aqua circulated a draft letter for stakeholders to review, possibly use, possibly modify. So we're in the process of reviewing that draft, seeing if that's consistent with PID's interests, and then we'll work with Kevin to see if we go ahead and submit those comments on behalf of the district, or perhaps different comments on behalf of the district. So that's kind of ongoing. And then once those comments are submitted, we'll see the extent to which they're considered and how that shapes the legislation going forward.
So I recall that when George Barber was here, that he had drafted a letter of disapproving with Governor Brown's opinion on this being a lifelong thing, and I had thought that the entire group was in agreement with that. Now you're saying sort of amended their position to where they may agree to it or a modification of it?
I don't think it's so much agree to it, but there has been kind of an evolution of the optimism as to what they're going to be able to accomplish. And I think when this started, the idea was we need to stop this in its tracks. Now it's kind of morphing into, the train's coming, what can we modify before it gets here? So that's kind of the range of opinions on the committee. So that's why we may need to modify the letter if it is maybe too conciliatory or doesn't oppose to the extent that we think it should.
At the end of the day, basically, they have absolutely no power, right? I mean,
That's it.
They're going to do what they want to do.
You got it.
And our comments are just comments. I mean, do they have any weight at all?
Well, they say that they're stakeholders. And
I mean,
stake in this thing.
to the extent that your legislatures represent you, then yes, they have weight, and perhaps you can,
There's your answer.
we'll propose something that's palatable that creates a consensus. I mean, it's probably a philosophical conversation more than a.
Need to hurry up and get those water rights from that power plant.
Well, that's probably a more practical solution.
Has the public comment period ended on that?
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it's at. There's been some changes to the bill, and I don't know if that would reopen it or not. I'll check.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Unless you live in L.A., it's not going to mean anything anyway, so.
And those are the only two items I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Staff and billing reports, review and consider acceptance of the June 2017 staff and billing reports. Action may be taken. So,
I had a question on the treatment report on page 62. So the county issues you're describing, Jim, are the same that we touched on with the boat launch purchase? Okay, thank you. And then, let's see, also
Can we-
for Neil's,
Sorry.
I think on page 68. Neil, and the activities this month, the second paragraph, the very last line, staff also continued to work on 2 annexations and on cross-connection control issues. What are the cross-connection control issues, please?
Niels, you can report. Thank you.
We have a number of meter services in the district that have issues that have to do with potentially getting water back from the customer side of connection,
Right.
which is potentially contaminated or polluted with some other substance. So we work with the customers and with developers and so forth to try to address those issues on an ongoing basis. And sometimes those things can be fairly complicated to file, and I can get involved in some of those things when
Are these residential or commercial or both? Could be either
they
one?
can be either one.
So they're always ongoing?
We are always dealing with backflow issues, but sometimes they get to be more complicated. We had a residential care facility in the community that had a cross-connection control issue that we ended up dealing with for several years to try to resolve that. We ended up involving Butte County Public Health, State Public Health, a number of other agencies. It took quite a while to get that done. And so that's, without trying to get into a lot of detail on the specifics of what I was doing last month, it's that kind of thing that I'm referring to there, is working through those issues of cross-connection control, particularly where they get complicated like that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, while you're up here, concerning backflow preventers? Now, I know on my property I have a well as well as PID water, and because of that I have to have a backflow preventer that has to be inspected regularly. But you're referring to residentials that don't. Now, do they have backflow preventers also, or?
There are a number of issues that can require a customer to provide backflow prevention. One is a well. We don't want to get somebody's well water because it may be fine, but we have no way of knowing that it would meet state standards. We don't get a chance to test it. We don't want it served to our customers. And if it comes back through the meter to us, we could be in a situation where we could end up.
Sure, I understand that.
Water.
Understand
Other
that.
things that typically we look at these days, all new stick-built construction, site-built construction has to have a fire sprinkler system. And those fire sprinkler systems typically are built in such a way that they will hold stagnant water in the lines. And so we require a backflow prevention if somebody has a fire sprinkler system. Another thing is if they have a septic system on site that uses pumping equipment. I don't know if you're familiar with how those things look when they go into the ground, but a lot of times they'll have the same Schedule 40 pipe carrying effluent as is carrying the clean water into the site, and I've actually seen them come entrenched on the site. So that's another thing that we require if there's pumping equipment in the septic system, that they have to have a backflow preventer. Then there are other things too that can come up depending on the specifics of the site. Commercial sites specifically can have a number of things that can cause hazards. We're actually seeing full-on sewage treatment plants at a number of the larger facilities here in town, healthcare, shopping centers, things like that. Those are a particularly large hazard to us. But other things, even things like carbonators at restaurants where they have the soft drink dispensers. carbonators have been implicated a number of times over the years in cross-connection control incidents where the carbonated water, if it gets back into the plumbing of the establishment, often it's copper plumbing, it can just dissolve that copper and create green water, which, people they definitely don't want to drink. It's
Carbonic acid.
Copper is something that we have to restrict very much in getting it into the water. So there's myriad things that we look at and in making the determination.
Okay, so because I know in the past residential probably wasn't looked at, but now you're saying that when you get plans for new construction, you're looking at each one individually and determining whether or not it needs a backflow preventer.
That's right.
Okay.
Most new construction is residential, but there is a certain amount of new commercial construction, and we look at those. We also look at if we see that an occupancy has changed in a commercial establishment. We see a hairdresser go in where there maybe used to be, a general sales location. Hairdressers, too, use some pretty intense chemicals for coloring hair, for straightening or curling hair, things like that. So, it all factors into what we watch to see to it that the water's protected and kept.
Okay, yeah, because I know the Uniform Fire Code, I think on most residences up here, because we're in a high fire risk area, require sprinklers over a certain square footage. So if that's the case, you should be looking at backflow preventers for all of those.
Right, and all new site-built residential construction, regardless of square footage, regardless of type of construction, now since January 1st, 2011, I believe it was, is required to have a fire sprinkler system.
Right, so they should all have backflows then?
They do.
They all do, yeah.
Okay. Good.
And even if a person does retrofit on an older home, puts in a pump septic, that triggers it too.
Good.
Because I've had a couple people call me going, why do I have to? And I could tell them.
Because you got a permit.
Yeah. Yeah, next time just.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Do we have any other staff and board?
Mickey would like to give you a preview of our transparent. You gotta tell me this.
Oh, we're talking about information technology.
Shock and
report.
awe or something?
He's going to give the information
Is
technology.
there going to be music, popcorn?
Page 70, right?
Page 70, yes.
I came tonight to show you guys the transparency page on the website that we've been working on, but I've been so excited. I'm not letting Kevin show it yet because we're going to have a big reveal, right? So there's been a lot of work by staff. A lot of the stuff that you're going to see on the transparency page is stuff that PID's done always because we are a transparent organization. And I know Dan loves the word transparent. He's not listening. Anyway, it's really special, I think, that PID is a public agency and that's transparent. Because what that means is that we're see-through, right? I don't know. You guys all know because you're here. We have open meetings. If you have a question, you can go to the front counter and ask, and somebody will either know the answer, find out, or even give you the document. And the really neat thing, I think, about our type of agency is you don't even have to be a customer of PID to get information about what we're doing. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was in Safeway listening to a meeting where the manager and the board of directors were discussing strategy in front of the public. So it's really exciting. Transparency, we kind of really explored what it meant and got down to the details, and it really means that you're open, that you're accountable, and that you're communicating. And while a lot of the stuff has always been, Kevin came in 2007, and he was a really big supporter of putting a lot of this stuff on the website. So we have had meetings and document information on the website since 2008. But the really special thing about the new way to access is you can access everything from one page. So the URL is really easy. You guys can go home and share it with your friends. It's pidwater.com/open. Remember that? Read it. Say it back. No.
PIDwater.com/open.
Yes. Okay, so bring up the page. Please. I'm going to have Kevin be my fingers. So it's a real simple page. There's not a lot of graphics on it, but we were recognized for being transparent from the Special District Association, and so we took all the information that they require, which is 2 pages of things that you have to have on your website, and things like ethics, training for board members. We took everything from that criteria list and used that to build this page. So we start on the top, you can find out about PID, who we serve, under what authority, how to make a suggestion or complaint is right there on the top of the page. They can easily contact us, and then we go down to the second section, which discusses the ethics. We have links to our policy and procedures manual. If you want to click on that link that says district policies that ensure ethical behavior, we've broken out our policies and put them on a page that's very easy for the public to just scroll down. See our Public Records Act, how we do reimbursements, compliance with the Brown Act, conflict of interest, code of ethics. And it's very easy. And even on this page at the top heading, you'll see that there is a link back to the actual manual so that people can get in deeper and look. So if you want to go back. Okay, and then we talk about financial accountability. We're keeping our annual audits online for 7 years so that people can look. And we've highlighted something that I think a lot of people don't know, is that every year PID submits a financial report to the state controller. So has anyone played on that site? You can go there, you can pull up PID's information, you can see our expenses, our revenues. You can choose up to 5 agencies to compare it to. And the information goes all the way back.
10 years, I think.
It's a long time. So PID's been providing the state this information for a long time. So I really encourage you, if you're interested in looking at the district finances in a new way, to go there and you can create your own reports. And then we detail how we're planning for the future, so the public can see our budgets, our reserving policies, our debt management policy. Compensation and benefits. We've taken your guys' benefits because it's a lot easier to do the board than for the employees. There's a whole MOU for us, right? It's real easy with the board, though. So we were able to bullet it all out, put it right here on the page so that people, if they wonder how you guys are compensated, it's right here. Additionally, we have given them more information about the employees, so they can go to the publicpay.ca.gov and look at the history and what our employees are receiving. Additionally, they get to look at the actual agreements. So we have the management unit MOU, the general unit MOU, and there's a folder that contains every job description. So if they want to know what it is we do, they can see that too. We've got the reimbursement and travel policy, and then the new thing that we've added is the employee reimbursement disclosure. So they can click on that and view any employee that was cut a check for reimbursement over the last year. We remind them under access to public records that if they don't find something here that they're looking for, that they can submit a form and ask for more information. We give them information on how to serve on the board. We link them to buttevotes.net so they can get more information. We tell them the election schedule, when there's going to be openings on the board, and how they can run for those if they want. The current leadership details your guys' information. If you go to the Visit the Board page link, you can see more detail about the board members. Do you see that, Kevin? Mm-hmm. It looks real similar to the old page, but if you click there, it's just a really easy way. I would love, you can see the information on every director, what committees you all are on, and how to contact you.
Is that all you got on me?
Well, honestly, I would like to I'd like to see bios and photos on this picture so that
Maybe
our
some
customers-
photos, not mine.
Yeah. Okay, and then we go down and we talk about, because we believe they have a right to know who's managing their district, we have the information on Kevin Phillips. And down at the bottom of the bio, we have Kevin's contract and his interim district manager agreement, so everybody can view those as well. Then lastly, we just remind them about the public meetings, link them to the meetings page. Has anyone used the meetings page?
They've even got your information there, Cliff. Look at that.
Yeah, could I correct that? Oh, it is
There it is.
Rosenberg. Oh, bravo.
Is she up to snuff
Up
or
to
what?
date.
Well, it's a bravo. What are you giving me a bravo on?
Because I thought it was
Rosenberg's
Robert's Rules of Order, and then I looked and saw it was Rosenberg's.
Yes, yes. You know, I got to say, management, Georgiana, Cedar Creek, the staff, everybody worked really hard on putting this together for our public.
This is
So
looking good.
We hope they use it. They can see where else they can keep in touch with us online in the community, and we invite them to request a speaker at an event too. So
Like one
there's-
stop right here.
Yep, everything.
Yeah, very good.
So would you like us to email you bios and photos?
Say that again?
Would you like us to email bio and photos to you for inclusion?
We'll discuss that. Well, I guess we can discuss it now. We've gotten bids on if you guys wanted to come in and have a professional photo picture taken. It would cost, what did we get? We got a bid for $250 for someone to come in.
That's expensive. We don't have to come to.
Yeah, we got a bid for $225 for the 5 members.
Oh, for all
And
five.
then we got a bid for a minimum of 2 hours, which would be professional photography for the 5 members, and then anyone else that they could fit in that 2 time. I would really encourage you to do it because it's your public. You know, they get to go on the site and see, you know, who's leading and making decisions for them, and I think that requires a little bit of care.
A lot of touch-up for $250. You can really make us look good, huh?
Couldn't we just take a picture with our Samsung phone and?
Yeah. Let Eli take it.
It's up to you. It's up to you guys on how you want to do it. So we didn't make that decision for you guys.
Right.
We were going to leave that up to you.
Thank you.
To see if that's something you were interested in doing.
I would encourage it. Cedar Creek would encourage
There
it.
is a new photographer in town, and I forget.
Billings or
Eli Stillman? No?
No, it's a new. I forget the guy's name, but anyway.
The Butte County RCD had their webpage, I think it's still down, but when it was active, they had all the pictures, including people like me who were just not a full director, but an associate.
Yeah.
But they had our pictures and bios. And as far as I know, the district is so broke, they didn't spend any money on that. They took our pictures and the manager wrote up the bios, talked to us, or we submitted information for them.
We can do it that way too.
we can do it that way too.
Do it through Cedar.
I like it on the cheap.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I'm clapping too because I'm so excited that we just have the support and the kind of district that we have. So
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank
Very
you.
good.
We've been waiting for that for years, Vicki. So thank you very much.
Before we end the staff and billing reports, I'd like to see if Jim, could you take a couple of minutes to come up and let us know? I'm a little concerned about what's going on with the RFP that you sent out, that we haven't gotten any responses back on.
Is this going
So we're on
now?
your staff report here, and
Page 62.
Oh.
you know, you mentioned
Oh, yes, okay.
process water recycle project update. So could you kind of share with us what's really going on with that?
This weekend, I started getting really worried about no responses.
I saw your email.
Usually I have a lot of inquiries from consultants. There were so many this time sent out, and I've had no interest questions about this particular RFP on the NPDS renewal. So I sent out a very simple request this weekend, or on Monday, and asked them to respond positively if they were going to submit a proposal. Well, all the responses were no. I didn't ask for no's, I asked for yeses. Didn't get any yeses.
Did you get any reasons why?
They have other clients that they're busy, their schedules are busy. they don't quite have the time at this time. Again, they're doing other things. They've thought through the RFP, and this doesn't work for us right now. That's about as vague as they're willing to, you know.
Is it possible that we may have gotten too technical or too detailed in our request?
We can talk about Stantec. Stantec was key in the development of that RFP. Stantec, we can quote, maybe Kevin is searching that right now. We were right on you're on the right track, quote unquote. The district is on the right track. And Stantec is what we're sort of kick-started this RFP, as well as O'Brien, another company just like Stantec, a month earlier told us to get on the same track. So they like I would say the RFP is on point.
Have we exhausted the potential firms that we could send it to?
There's one more called Larry Miller, which I'm used to use down south. They're up here in this area. I didn't think about them when I created the list. I'll be contacting them specifically, personally. What Kevin suggested is we want to try to go one-on-one with some of these firms, kind of get some more why don't you want to propose.
If at the end of the day we can't find anybody that's interested, I suppose we have two options. One, we have to go back and start over where we left off, which I don't relish doing. The other is it possible that we have the technical guys here that we could do this on our own?
Yeah, I thought that already. We do. I work really well with regulators. Regulators, not only that, but they're ready to help you. They're not like, challenge you to provide them with the information. You work with them you establish rapport. The technical part of the NPD of this study is a mixing zone. Probably a lot of calculations. Computers are doing those calculations now. We have to figure out the inputs.
Is it possible that some of these firms might be interested in doing pieces of this and not the whole thing, and we look at only reaching out on the things that you don't feel you have the expertise or the experience to accomplish?
Possible.
And that would be the questions that we would sit down and ask them is, what would it take for you? What's the drawback from you guys submitting a proposal on this? And how do we tailor it to make sure that you are interested in something like that? Is it the timeline that we put on there? Because we can loosen that timeline. Is it the scope of the work? Because we can maybe piecemeal some of the work and use them as experts on certain portions of it, So I think that's where we really need to sit down with them and discuss it and see if they're because to me it's if we can kind of tailor it to them, it's work for them, and if it's the right work, I don't see them passing it up, but we just maybe need to make it the right work.
Because my concern is I feel like we went down this road and we've made so many U-turns that we're going to lose credibility here pretty quick if we don't do something.
That's where I think we're at, because we went out with another RFP, we pulled RFPs, and I think that people are saying, I don't know what they're saying, but I can imagine what they might be saying.
We're tire kickers.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a particular consultant, let's not mention their name in public, but exactly, they say it in a very tactful way. That's what their job is to. And these are vice presidents of companies that explain to me kind of basically what you just said.
And
it's not nice to listen to.
Jim, did we send this out to Waterworks engineers who we have on contract?
Yeah.
Well, so they're not interested. How about Larry Walker and Associates out of Davis?
That's Larry Walker's. Yes, that's the one I missed.
Okay, send
I'll be
something to them
contacting
because
kind of better let this run its course and then contact Larry Walker.
You mean after the the deadline?
It's formally proposed right now. They certainly can't make July 27th.
Well, I would advise to go ahead and send it to them anyway, right now.
They can.
Yeah. That's what I would.
Yeah.
They don't do
that.
The only problem is that you have a formal RFP out there that if someone does submit bids, then you have, and you've contacted Larry, who's not going to be able to make that deadline, then you've kind of strung him out a little bit because you have
Right.
formally kind of committed to those bid processes.
But they might be able to throw something together that may not be totally complete, but still get something to us.
Well, I mean, the reason I bring this up is I think we need a plan B because we can't go back to where we were at. That doesn't fly with anybody. It doesn't fly with the public. It doesn't fly with me. It doesn't fly with the amount of money we'd have to spend and the complexity of it. And yet we got to do something. So,
Well, the positive thing really is what we sort of know. We already know that when going back to our time schedule order, they were going on the old rules, the old permit. Time schedule order is a completely different thing than a permit renewal. When they write a new permit, the encouraging things we've heard about, they have different ways of doing aluminum now that the old permit didn't have, and different ways of dealing with DCBM. So they already have a precedent set. They're going to write our permit with those new aluminum and DCBM rules already that are already, the science is already kind of perfected, except our unique science of the mixing zone in our reservoir.
So you're saying that,
So it's kind of already preset. There's not a lot of, okay, go ahead.
you're saying that they're going to be citing the same fish kill studies and toxicity assessment that
Sure.
Bear Valley?
It's already there.
Science
has been.
So we don't have to do that.
forward to be less stringent is kind of opposite to what we've always been saying. It's only become more stringent. Well, in this particular case, those two constituents are less stringent.
so are you saying there's a possibility that they would be to the levels that we're currently at on our interim permit? That we may,
Can't say. I can't really say that at this moment. We know. I think that for aluminum, it can go to the drinking water standard of 200. But still, it's hard. We don't always meet 200 currently. Correct. So even though the limits go up, doesn't mean we can still. It'll be easier to meet them. But there's going to be another level of treatment to meet them all the time.
okay.
And it might not be as difficult, more complex treatment. Kind of why you wanted to have problems with the lamella option is too complicated.
Right.
Well, we hopefully will have simpler treatment, less stringent standards, and simpler treatment.
Jim,
Pressure filtration. Say.
what kind of instructions do you want from the board?
There's
We're fine.
There's no instruction. This is just the staff and billing report. The phase approach that we're going to go is correct me if I'm wrong, but we're down the path that we're going. We're on the path to renew that NPDES permit. Now we just need to find our support to get that done. Right. Me and Jim are going to work to make sure that we find the proper support to help us get that accomplished.
Okay.
We have Bill Taylor and Neil and myself, and technically dealing with those issues.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that you guys have the confidence that you could do it if you had to, because
I've been dealing with this my whole life.
okay, because we really are down that road and we're going to have to perform, and so
Yourself.
good.
I've come to this recently. With what you're saying, I've come to terms with this. Oh Lord, but please help me. I'm praying.
Well, we have that prayer every meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you for the update.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Does the board have any more questions about this? All the different issues that are in it?
That was just a staff and billing report. I just had a question I wanted to answer.
No,
because it was part of
that's
that.
fine. Any questions from the
Public.
public for the staff and billing report? There's charts about water consumption, revenue, and other things. It's quite an extensive report. So if anybody has any questions about any of it, or if any staff want to comment on any of it? Can I have a motion to approve the staff and billing report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to call a 10-minute break. I know for me it's a bathroom break, but I feel much better having gone there before, because I think most of you people are here for what's coming. So, if you can time it for us, Georgia, please.
Can we turn that AC?
Oh, that's right, yeah. When you look at that line up there. Nice to see you, Ken.
Back to work.
We'll move to agenda item 10B. Cliff has put this on the agenda, so we're just going to turn it over to Cliff.
Thank you. I'll start by saying that I want to make a motion that we cancel the action item titled Executive Recruitment Services, which was tabled for 30 days at our June board meeting, and offer the position of district manager to Kevin Phillips, our current interim district manager. Currently, Kevin Phillips is serving as the interim district manager. Since taking the temporary position, Kevin has shown the ability to manage the district in a way that is quite impressive. He has been instrumental in organizing a workshop to review and develop the current budget and forecast for the upcoming budget. These are duties of the CFO that he's been performing in addition to his management duties. He has changed the direction of the processed water recycle project by renewing the process of gaining a new MPDES permit, while seeking a process to increase our allowable discharge limits to a level that will require much less in the way of infrastructure improvements. This alone could save the district literally millions of dollars, and that's why I'm so adamant about that we push through it this direction. He has changed the direction of weekly staff meetings. Staff meetings are now a collaborative discussion on district issues. This gives all management staff a voice in solving problems throughout the district. He has empowered management staff and given them more responsibility, which has improved communication. For example, Mickey Rich and her community relations outreach, and Neil Asilla, as we've seen at the last few board meetings, he has been the technical voice of the district. He's working with the California Division of Safety of Dams to come up with an understanding of the requirements of a new comprehensive study brought on by the Oroville Dam incident, scheduled a meeting with the division chief to come up with a phased approach to meet the division's requirements to allow the district to find ways to pay for the requirements. He's assisted district staff in applying for grant funds to help pay for the study and requirement improvements, which we just discussed earlier. He's shown that he's very capable of working with the board and union on labor negotiations. If we offer this position to Kevin and he accepts it, we can find a replacement for our CFO and possibly hire an individual at a rate that's lower than what our current district manager was making when he had the position of only CFO. Kevin Phillips currently has the qualifications of a district manager, but in addition, he has also the qualifications that a new district manager would not have: financial experience background. Because he has this additional knowledge in accounting and finance, he can oversee the work of an assistant financial officer, thereby lessening the skills required by his replacement. Why would we want to go outside of our organization and hire a new individual who has no experience in our district when we have what I believe is a qualified individual who is up on our current issues? He's demonstrated that repeatedly, and has demonstrated the ability to run the district. By hiring from within, we set an example to all of the employees of the district that we value their commitment and their work ethic. And I got to tell you, I have been extremely impressed since George has left in the change of direction, and I got to say that I feel like Kevin was stymied on being able to do the things that he thought was right because he was being a good employee and he was doing what he was told to do. And now that he's able to call the shots, he has stepped up his performance, and I think it's extremely good, what he's been doing, and I just don't understand why we would want to look for somebody when he's already sitting in that chair. I can understand it if we didn't have the qualified individual going out and competitively hiring a firm to find us somebody. But if we do that, then what we're saying is that we don't have the confidence that he can do the job. And if we're saying that, we're wrong. But if we're saying he does have the confidence, we do have the confidence in him that he can do the job, and yet we still want to see if there's somebody better out there, then what's going to happen the next time somebody else is doing a good job and we decide, let's go see if we can find somebody better? They have no job security, and they're going to recognize that. And it's got to start right here. We got a qualified guy. He's willing to work for less money than we can hire a new guy for. He's already proven he can do the job. Let's save the money. We got more important things to do. We can always get rid of him if he somewhere down the road doesn't do what we think he can do. We've already shown that, so let's give the guy a shot at it. He's already sitting there, and he's already up to speed. Thank you.
Did you formally make a
I did.
motion?
I did. I made a motion that we cancel the action item Executive Recruitment Services, which was tabled for 30 days at our June board meeting, and offer the position of district manager to Kevin Phillips as our current interim district manager.
I like the idea,
Thank you.
and I'll second that motion. And we can start from the discussion.
Start with Ian, this way.
Dan? Go for it.
I am impressed with Kevin's work performance, and I do agree with you that since change of management, I do feel he was stymied, and I do like what I see, but this is a very important decision, and I still think we need to go out. He's only been on the job a couple months. He's welcome to apply, and it may be that in the end it'll be that he'll be the best fit, but I still would like to go out for a recruitment.
That's kind of where I am too. I agree also, just like Ann said, with many respects of what you had said. I think he has blossomed, spread his wings, done a good job. But I too would like to see if there are a dozen others, and if for some remote reason his rises to the top, that's great. So.
Okay.
And I'd like to say that in the short time that I've been here, I've seen morale come up in this organization, and basically it's, Kevin's had a lot to do with that, I believe, and I've heard from some of the employees. They've approached me, and I do agree with Cliff in this aspect that hiring from within, if you have someone that's qualified and can do the job, it does really show a lot to the employees. It gives them some hope. How about that? Because I was there. I came up through the ranks. I used to call it a grunt. I was a grunt, and I came up through the ranks where I used to work. And they hired me as a manager, and I appreciated that. And it gave everybody else some hope too. So I think I like the idea of hiring from within. And
Dan, can I read something that was, I don't know if we all read this or not. The public may not have seen this. This is to the Board of Directors, PID, and this is from the management unit. Dear members of the board, the management group would like to express our support for Kevin Phillips as district manager for Paradise Irrigation District. Kevin's knowledge and understanding of all aspects of the district, his financial background as chief financial officer, and positive and collaborative relationship with employees and board members is a tremendous asset, unlikely to be rivaled by any other potential candidate. We believe that Kevin will be highly successful in this position by continuing to lead the district in the direction set by the board for the best interests of PID, its customers, and our community. We feel Kevin has the technical business and leadership experience necessary to effectively manage the challenges and responsibilities of the district manager position to ensure PID's success. Kevin has demonstrated the ability to run the district and would be an excellent choice for district manager. Respectfully, the management unit. That speaks volumes, I think, because here's his peers, here's the people that he works with saying, we want Kevin, he's doing a great job. And if everybody thinks he's doing a good job, I don't understand what we could gain by going out and paying $25,000 to compare him to some potential candidate. Let's say we're fortunate enough to find somebody who's just a little smarter than Kevin and just knows a little bit more about finance than Kevin. Maybe he's, on a scale of 1 to 10, Kevin's a 9 and he's a 10. Does that small difference really offset the fact that Kevin's going to have to train whoever we hire? Because who else is, I'm not going to do it. I don't know of anybody else that knows what Kevin knows. Somebody's going to have to bring this guy up to speed. Kevin's going to have to do it. What does that say to Kevin? I got to train the guy who's going to replace me because they didn't think I was good enough. And again, I'm saying this as a business owner because I am a business owner. I'd be too embarrassed to go to work the next day if I did that, if I hired somebody around one of my employees that was already doing a job beautifully, and I say, I think I found somebody who's a little bit better than you. Train him for me. No.
I want to say one more thing, too, is that you can have people with sterling credentials and, great education and experience, and yet they're not a good fit for our particular situation, our district. So we want the best fit for our district, the best person that'll just fit in that slot and just lead us down the road. And right now, I feel like Kevin is a good fit, a very good fit. And like I said, there'll be people that'll apply that'll have sterling credentials and advanced degrees and all this kind of thing. But when it comes right down to it, it's the person. We're talking about a person that is the best fit, and that's where I'm at. And Kevin does a great job from everything I've seen to communicate. You're a great communicator. You're easygoing. Let things roll off your shoulders. I like that. That's how I try to do things. So I just think I'm just telling the folks here tonight that I think Kevin's a really good fit for our district and where we're at right now. And I think he can lead us down the road very well. So.
Any more directors' comments? I'm not going to be commenting. So anybody from the public? Yes, Lauren. Lauren first, then you can go after. If you want to, go up and stand behind him where you can speak when he's done.
It's really important you can go first. It's important. He caught on to that. Sorry. I apologize for the glasses. Most of you know I got bad eyes, so I'm going to leave them on because it hurts me not to leave them on. I'd just like to bring the board up to speed on something now. I hope the audience was seeing what I saw. This all come about not because Kevin's a bad person. I know Kevin and I won't be going water skiing together, and that's fine with me. I don't expect him to. But the thing is, this come about not because of Kevin's performance. This come about because of George's performance and the recall and the willingness for the public to wipe out the top members, if you recall. And so when we're sitting here listening to this, it's ironic that the two board members on this end who come in via the recall want to look around. The two members who come in not by the recall don't want to look around. That is a glaring thing to me, quite frankly. But I have a few other things that I'd like to bring up. First thing is, if we're going to consider Kevin for the job, which I'm not saying he can't do it, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's renegotiate this 1 year of severance pay. Let's get rid of that. That was a stupid thing that George dogged us into that I don't think is fair for the ratepayers at all. I don't see why we should have any employee who's getting a year's severance pay if we don't like them. That's just stupid. And now's the time to burn that thing up. So I don't know how he feels about it. Don't want to know how he feels about it right now. But I'm saying that's one. Number two is, the recall happened, the public got pissed, quite frankly, because of the pay this place was handing out to people. So it's not surprising to me that the employees are happy with Kevin because, guess what? He's in negotiations for labor right now. You'd be a complete idiot to say that you didn't want him there when he's in there negotiating with you for labor cost, for what you were going to make. You'd be an idiot to say, I don't want that guy there. So I don't put much credence in that. Sorry.
I think it was management, though, not employees.
Still, you've got people that's under him that depend on him for their wages. You just don't do it. It's just not there. The other thing is about this thing about looking for a manager, that $25,000. That's a one-time payment. It's not like it goes on. And say, let's say if we get a guy to do the job for $100,000, we'll be saving what, $40,000 a year forever. That's a hell of a lot more than $25,000 for a one-time deal, folks. I can pass the math on that. So I want you to think about that, and I'd just like to say that just really that this all come about because of the mismanagement of this thing in our $20 million treatment plant we were going to get up here. And so I'm not saying Kevin was in on it, because Kevin was an employee under the boss, wanted to keep his job because, quite frankly, he makes mighty good money for Paradise, and I don't blame him for wanting to keep his job. I would have wanted to keep my job too. But I own a business also, and don't brag about it, but I do. And so and we have a turnover, extensive turnover in our business. They stay 2 years, they learn the business, and they move on. So you got to think about that too. And I wanted to be fair to Kevin and say, look, you got to be careful. If you're going to hire another guy, you got to be careful that you don't do. We just saw it was in the news tonight. Is it Chico they've had 4 fire chiefs in the last 5 years or so, or 6 years. Those guys, it's exactly like the fire chief we had. That guy was from Yakima, Royston. He couldn't make manager or chief because his chief wouldn't retire. He come down here, put in 3 or 4 years. The minute his chief in Yakima retired, he handed in his resignation and left. Yeah. So you got to think about that. Kevin likes it here. He'll obviously stay here. I hate to say that, I'm biting my tongue when I say it, but I still would like to see what's out there, and I would like to see what the price range would be, because this place to me is overpaying. The people who pass out the money obviously don't reach in their own pocket for it. So it's always been considerably higher than us poor ratepayers who make up this thing. And we're led to believe it's because they're good workers. Well, if we're led to believe that, then we're led to believe you guys believe that we're not good workers because we make less. So I don't think the amount of money that you pay somebody is directly related to whether they're a good worker or not. My last job up here, I did air conditioning for years and years. I made $12 an hour. I was happy as a puppy covering up his little bone because I was working at home. I got other things from it. I could go there in 5 minutes, go to work. I could go home for lunch or go to the local restaurant that I knew. So I've taken up my time, but consider that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
My name is Frank Kant. First of all, I'd like to say, money should be treated with respect, whether it's your own, your neighbors, or government. Money should always be treated with respect.
Frank, can you talk up a little bit?
Okay. I said money should be treated with respect, whether it's your own, your neighbors, or government. It always should be treated with respect. Now, hiring someone from outside is generally a thought if it is thought in a general picture, we need some change, we need some new direction. Okay? Observing just, I apologize for not coming to meetings as I should be, but just observing this one meeting this evening, okay? Kevin obviously has done very good at getting into the technical side of things, not just the financial side, but the technical side of things, okay? And I myself had a pretty good relationship with employees when I was on the board, and I didn't try to kiss somebody's backside to get that thing. It's a complete kind of picture that comes together. It comes together like this, okay? And salary really is not important, okay? And what's really important is that you have this coming together. You have this interest on everybody's level, okay, from the lowest level to the highest level. You have this interest that this is the organization, and we're all very happy and proud to be with that organization, okay? And so the fact that Kevin has taken on the responsibility of the technical side of the situation. Now, if, and hopefully he will take on the position as manager, think about this. You're going to end up getting a treasurer. What a wonderful position for even that new treasurer to come on board knowing that here's a person who has this total picture, including finance, okay? And so that total picture situation is important. I don't know how many of you ever worked in a situation where, you look forward to coming to work maybe 2 or 3 times a week, not every day, but 2 or 3 times a week, okay? It's really something. And it's that total picture. And so I was really just observing him talking on the technical side of things and so on and everything like that, and thinking, wow, he's really stepped into this situation. And hey, did he have to do that? And just because he was temporary manager, okay, is that did he have to become part of the whole picture? Okay, not really. I mean, he could still stay with his job of treasurer, I'm sure, okay? So, please, give it that picture. Outside person usually comes in because some major changes have got to take place, and we've got to have a different viewpoint, okay? Is that the case now? I think you all you board members can look at each other. Has things gone better since Barbara's gone? You know better than I. So thank you very much for you've been your ear.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Frank. Frank served as a board director, and I think you hired a manager at one time. Was involved in hiring.
The manager situation was interesting. Sometimes what you really want to do is just forget. I do remember having a manager come up to me and get nose to nose, literally nose to nose. Okay, I'm not a very big physical person. Okay, and he had my toes to toes and nose to nose. Okay, and he was his comments and his whole. In other words, I could have asked him to step outside, but I really had not known really the kind of management I think we needed, okay? And certainly, contrary when the recall situation, people said, we want to get rid of Barber. To tell you the honest truth, I didn't have that as a goal myself in my mind, okay? My goal was, first of all, to get the picture together and then see what happens from that, okay? I was opposed to getting rid of Barber, but I didn't see that as the goal. And I think we now can see that, good. I disappointed in what I heard was the finances letting him go, okay? If he was worth what you paid to get rid of him, he himself should have had a feeling of worth where he was going. He didn't need to be receiving benefits for leaving, okay?
Okay, Frank.
So, thank you, and
Thanks for your contribution tonight. Okay.
Yeah, it was. You raised the issue about water rights.
We'll come and talk. We'll actually talk about a little bit about that later.
Yeah, okay, because there's some interesting history there. I'm sorry, I kind of get started here.
No, thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Good comments.
You're going to have to tell me your name. I know you, but I can't.
My name is Marcel.
Pardon?
My name is Marcel.
Marcel?
Yes.
Marcel?
Yes, pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are the ratepayers. We are the people that are the ratepayers. We have the right to help you make a decision. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Does Kevin have past management skills? Is he he's managed his financial department, his finance department, and but does he have any skills as a manager in the past? That's what I'm asking, basically. And I'm saying, as opposed to Cliff's letter here, we're looking for he said he was a technical voice of the district. That means that he's an information technologist, or what does that mean? I don't, he's
Well,
a voice.
that was Neil I was referring to.
For what?
I was referring to the fact that he's empowered some of the staff to be more proactive and more involved in things such as board meetings and educating us as to what's actually going on behind the scenes.
As he should in the last 2 months, or the last few months.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Exactly. So, in fact, he doesn't have he's not a managerial person. He's not a GM. He's never been a general manager, so he doesn't have that experience.
Okay.
So that's basically what I'm saying. He does not have the assets of a manager and an incoming manager as an asset. He's a financial numbers guy. He's an accountant, a financial person. That's what he's done all of his life. Is that correct? Kevin, is that correct?
I'm going to refer to the board, and if the board wants me to answer the question, I can't.
We're asking you. Is that what you do?
But you're supposed to refer to the board, and then if the
Okay.
board wants me
Okay,
to
I'm just asking. Okay.
Marcel?
Every manager. Okay. Sorry.
Kevin, would you answer his question, please?
Yeah, sure. I've managed the finance department. I've also stepped in and managed the district in absence of the general manager.
That's just recently.
Well, as he actually was gone
just
on
recently.
Vacations or any type of absence that he had. And so, yes, I've had management experience.
So, yes. So every manager that we look at for in the future as a general manager is always going to have financial experience because that's part of his job each and every day. He deals with all the different things, all the social things, all the management, all the problems that are inside of the business. That's what a manager does each and every day. So we'd like to look outside, as the ratepayers and the people, outside for another manager, someone else besides this gentleman here. I'm not saying anything bad about Kevin. I'm just looking for other outside recruits, somebody we can find somewhere else that has previous management experience, that can educate and train new employees, and would be his job to educate, as every manager going out always educates the new manager that's coming in. So that's just the way it is in life, unless they just walk away, and they don't ever do that because they want their pay. So we just need new blood in here, and that's what we're looking for. New blood in the system. And that would include not having Kevin take the job. And that's all I'd like to say in pursuant to that. Thank you.
Marcel.
Thank you, Marcel.
Thanks, Marcel.
Wally, could you give your, Wally Schmidt, right?
Wally Schmidt, yes,
Thank you.
Pence Road. I agree, really, with everything Cliff has said. I have no qualms about Kevin's capability to manage the district, to rise to the occasion. When I read the packet the other night, the only reservation that came to mind is that if the board doesn't do an objective search, you leave yourselves and Kevin open to the claim of cronyism. We heard during the recall and the run-up to the recall, we heard a great deal of discussion about cronyism and how awful it was. And in fact, I believe I heard somebody claim that Cliff was George Barber's appointment to the board.
Oh, he was appointed.
So I really think that even though I think Kevin would be a great asset and would be a good choice, I think probably we owe it to ourselves to do at least some kind of a search. Now, $26,000, to be honest, I didn't read those proposals from the headhunters in any degree of detail. I really think that a lot of what they do could be done locally. You guys can establish criteria. We know what the job description needs to look like. I'm sure that, what is it, Cedar Creek, is that the right company name? I'm sure they could prepare the little packets and so forth. If you had half a dozen resumes, you can weight the various factors however you choose. You can weight, previous experience with the district highly. I certainly would. And I guess my point is it would be good to get on with this. If Kevin is the kind of person that I think he is, I don't think he will shy away from competition. So that's my advice. And as I always tell people, free advice is worth every penny.
Thanks, Wally.
Thank you, Wally.
Wally, it was unanimous that Cliff serve on the board.
Oh,
board.
I have no question it was, but somebody made the point that this was George Barber's guy, and
Actually,
I thought that was
if I
a cheap
remember
shot.
right,
For the
Mr.
record,
Hunt,
I didn't know who George Barber was when I came here.
I know there is so much misinformation that flies around.
Fake news.
That
You think?
Mark and Tanya Dale, the PR people.
Bob Dickinson.
You say your full name?
Yeah,
Full name?
Bob Dickinson.
Bob Dickerson. That's for
Dickinson.
Georgiana's
Dickinson.
help, and also the editor over here for the press. Huh?
Yeah.
Just a reporter. You're not a rookie anymore, are you? No? So,
Well,
I'm sorry, Bob.
That's
I'm
okay.
trying to inject some humor, and I obviously failed.
I feel that you need to continue the process and search. I mean, we started down this road, and you put some time in it, and you've got a lot of cost evaluations, and I don't think the costs are out of line. I think that we need to look at the best possible person, whether it's Kevin or anybody else, and as far as his feelings go towards this, if this hurts his feelings, then we really wouldn't want him as a manager. Okay? We need somebody that can stand up and do the job and look through what we have for people to do it. If it turns out Kevin, like everybody else has said, he's the best guy, he's the best guy. But you need to look at everybody. You're not doing anybody a service by not doing it. Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Is there any more comments from the public? Please, your name?
Yeah, Martin Nichols. And my position is you really need to go through the recruitment process. That's good public policy.
Talk a little closer to the mic. I'm not hearing you right.
Sorry. Dan used to get after me at the Planning Commission. I didn't talk into the mic.
That's right.
I recommend that you go through the whole recruitment process. You owe it to yourselves. You owe it to your public. You don't know who the best candidate is if you don't know what your options are. You go through a public and competitive process for everything else you do. A major project, you go through it. Went through it, talked tonight about getting photographer for the board, for the retirement administrator. Every employee in an organization had to go through a competitive process to know that they were the best qualified person for the job. The $25,000 is a small amount of money. Your manager could make one personnel decision, one contract decision, a number of them that would cost that money many times over. And so you owe it to yourselves. You got the best qualified candidate. A professional recruiter, and you've got three well-qualified firms. I've worked with two of them. They will go out and find a number of candidates. They will fully vet the people they bring forward to you to know that their backgrounds are what they say they are. They will talk their references. They will have done internet searches, and so you'll get really well-qualified people. They will help you do the process in terms of select them. And once you've selected a person, they'll do a complete background. So you won't be embarrassed that the person that you hired didn't have something in your back that you didn't know about. It is a good, complete, thorough process that you should follow, and I think you're on the right course if you do that.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
She said, thank you, Martin.
Any more public comments, please? And we'll go back to the board. Oh, here we go. Please say your name.
I'm Susan Nightingale. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, but I did just want to say that I really think that the people who've been up here saying we need to have a complete process are speaking not just for themselves, but for comments around the community. They want to see what's out there and what's available in the way of managerial skills. I have no idea the skills that it takes to run a water district, but I do know that almost any job you go to, especially any government job, I've had people that were very qualified apply for a job, and they were really going to give it in-house to a person that was already there. But just as a matter of protocol and a matter of transparency, they went ahead and put the jobs out, and maybe if someone that was more qualified came along, they would have hired them, but that they appreciated the person that was in-house. So having competitors for this job is not a comment that people don't want Kevin. It's a comment that we need to be transparent and look for the best we can for our community.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Does anybody else from the public want to comment? No second comers. You know, we do miss Ward tonight a little bit. So, see none, we'll go back to the board.
Just real quickly, for some of these comments, I welcome competition. I'm not looking for the job to be handed to me. It doesn't hurt my feelings about competing with others. I feel like I have a really good opportunity and a good chance of maybe actually sitting in this chair. If it's not me and it's somebody who's more qualified than me, then I welcome that. I welcome that with open arms. So by no stretch is me not getting the job just tonight or whenever it might come available is going to hurt my feelings in any way. So I just want to let you guys know I welcome competition, and I feel like I'm up for it. I'm up for that competition.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Any board members want to comment? Anybody ask for the question?
I would make one comment. And again, it's just personal, but I'm kind of ashamed that, you know, we don't need to do a background check on Kevin. We already know who he is. He's not a stranger that we have to do a background check on. He's not somebody that we have to check his credentials and see if he's up to the job. We have everything right here, and yet we're going to throw that away, go out, spend, $25,000, and quite honestly, I think we'll come back to the same person when it's all said and done, and we got more important things to do. And personally, if it was my business, it's not, but again, I would just say we don't have a problem here now. Let's move on and take care of the ones that we really do have. I think we're creating a problem here already. We've got the guy who's doing the job for less money than we'd end up paying somebody else to do it. I don't know why we're looking, but that's just me. Yeah. Okay. That's my comment. You had your say, now it's mine. Okay. Thank you.
Dan? Anything more?
I knew that Kevin was a big enough man that he'd handle it. So.
Would you poll the board on this one? It's such an important vote.
So, Director, do you want me to read the motion back?
Nah, we got it.
We know what it is.
We know what.
Director Whitler?
No.
Director Rice?
No.
Director Soul?
Yes.
Director Jacobson?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
No. Next agenda item is no, so it's 3-2.
Fails.
Failed.
3.2.
Well, I'm going to turn the next one over to Ann because she
I thought you wanted to present the
Oh, okay, I'll present that.
item A.
It might be interesting, the reason, I tell you, you'll see the reason why I wanted to bring it up first. I assume that everybody's read his letter and looked at his background and so forth, so I don't have to repeat any of that to the board members. I met Massa in January at the financial meeting. He was giving a part of a board presentation about some water rules and stuff. And we talked about this district at length. And he said, well, if you ever need a manager, I'd be interested. So we have talked several times since then. I talked to him today. And he basically feels he can handle the job, looks forward to competition. The reason his application is in here is simply to show you the kind of talent that's out there. Okay, and he manages a small district in Biggs.
Okay.
And so that's the point of it. It wasn't the point, he certainly wants to have his application considered, however we do that. But he understands, and he actually made a suggestion to me today that we give Kevin 90 days, and then while the 90 days are going on, we look for the other managers. So Kevin would have the security of 90 days employment without any consideration. He could do the job he wants to do and show us what he can do. So, which I thought was interesting. And yet Massa still would like to be considered for the job, because it'd be quite an upgrade from where he's at, and it'd be a pay increase. He's told me that the president of the board down there, they gave him it's in here, but he gave him a 10-year thing where he's done outstanding work. But the president of the board, he's a farmer, I know, Gary Justison, he told him, hey, if you can get more money and do a job for somebody else, we're not going to stand in your way, but we'd sure like for you to stay. But we can't offer the money that PID would be able to offer to. So that's the prime reason this is here. It wasn't meant to be anything to vote upon, but he'd like to be considered down the road, however way we're going as a board, and have his application, first one in the door at any rate. So that's any questions, I guess, from anybody about it?
I think the audience first, right? And then back to the board?
No, it's the board first.
No. Okay, well, I've got a comment. I did a little research on it. First of all, he has absolutely no experience in distribution systems other than irrigation canals, and he has no experience in potable water treatment whatsoever. He only has 5 years experience in agricultural flume water for rice fields and things. He also, and it's 5 years, he also has a law degree and has a practice in Willows that I'm sure he's not going to stop. He also is a full-time farmer, which I'm sure he's not going to stop. And I'm wondering how he's going to balance being a full-time district manager here along with being a farmer and along with having a law firm in Willows.
You haven't read his thing totally.
Well, I did read the whole thing, actually, and
Well, his daughter and son do the farming with him.
Actually, wait a minute, it's my turn, right?
No, you asked some questions, I'm answering.
Well, no, I'm not asking questions. I'm pointing out the research I did and what I found. And what I found was that if I were going to interview him for this job, I'm not saying anything against the guy. I don't even know him. He might be a swell guy. He might be an upstanding citizen. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with him, except that his resume doesn't give me the qualifications that I would even consider him for this job, because I got a guy sitting there with 10 years of experience in that seat, and this guy has 5 years in irrigation water and nothing on distribution systems, nothing on how to run a potable water treatment plant. I don't understand how he could get that.
Well, actually, he
Here.
agrees with you, but he also, what he counters with is that these other experiences he's had, he's recently been involved in getting $10 and the $20 million grants and loans from to line these dirt ditches. And he's been able to raise money. He has experience in banking besides law. He doesn't propose to be the attorney for the district. He actually has a different attorney that is fully employed at his water company. As far as potable water, there's Jim sitting over there. As far as engineering, there's Neil sitting there. And then we have 2 other men on management staff that can help him, along with Kevin, to make any kind of a transition, to train him. He has some skills that we don't presently have in the district. But I would rather go on to what Ann is talking about, unless there's some other questions about.
Well, no, and Vince, I appreciate your comments too, but I wasn't completely done. But address what you said. If we're looking for somebody for funding, we're paying people right now to go get that funding for us, and I don't believe we're paying them $125,000 a year. So if we just need somebody to bring us funding, that's a lot cheaper. So I don't see that as a big asset. And as far as the financial background, I doubt that his financial background rivals Kevin's. So I'm a little bit there on that comment. But anyway, that's all I have to say on it.
Any other board members have comments?
No, we're not hiring him tonight. We're just, this is information,
Right.
so.
And I think we're getting into an area where we may be pre-prejudicing possible candidates, and we may need to cut off this discussion.
I think this was inappropriate to put this in our agenda packet.
It was.
First off.
Lauren?
That's my opinion.
Would you want to?
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren Harvey. I'd just like to say, in fairness, this man's not here. At one time, I held 8 active ICBO certifications. I looked for some jobs. I had to show up. So I don't know this man at all, and I'm not saying he's not capable of doing the job, but he hasn't showed up. So let's remember that, and that's a very good argument for why to pay the $25,000 and have a researcher do it. And then he can show up for the job. And I'm familiar with hiring from within. My wife became a supervisor at the job she had with the county because she outlasted the person that retired out. So I know how it was, and I consider her qualified, and I consider Kevin qualified. I just want to find out what the job's really worth, quite frankly. I wish we'd do that for the backhoe operators and everybody else. Every 5 years, put it out for bid and say, we need a backhoe operator. Let's see your qualifications and how much you'll work for. Thank you.
Lauren, he had to go to a meeting in Sacramento that his board told him he should be at tonight. That's why he isn't here. So, and he's the one that asked for it to be put on the agenda. And since he asked, and we are looking at this, I said, okay. And it was under the understanding that he was opening the door to show what you can have in the local area for candidates. And so, Ann, do you want to go on with which actually is an action item?
Sure. So we're on 10C. I made up a spreadsheet, kind of just looking at the aspects of each of the 3 responders to our RFP. I believe any of these companies would do a good job for us. And so just to help us make a decision, and I tried to be as fair as possible. And I believe the money is the same for each, so that really wasn't a consideration, other than one company did have a fixed cap, so we know that there would be no more than $25,000. The other could go over. It's a possibility, but they could be less. So I handed out, Dan actually asked me to share this spreadsheet, so I shared it with all members of the board.
No, I can't find it.
Yeah, I hope that's all right, because at the last meeting, she said, oh, by the way, I did this, and I said, oh, please, let us all see it. Because I read everything, but I didn't take the time to do the extensive research that she did.
So what's nice...
Sure. Because I managed this label. It's probably on my pickup.
I already kind of formed my opinion, but...
Good. I have another copy for you, Georgiana, if you want it. So what I was really pleased to see is that each firm would guarantee placement, at least for 1 year, CPS actually for 2, and if the candidate that was placed was not successfully, still continuing on the job in 1 year, they would do a full recruitment at no cost. I think it might be for expenses, but it was, yeah. And I thought that was a pretty good value. And as you can see, as you go down, the staff involvement, I like that COF used their president and senior recruiting manager to do, and then subcontractors. I wasn't able to see if Murray used them or not, but for sure that the other two stated no, they didn't. Maximum involvement in the interview assessment process, I thought the other two were stronger. Focused on the public sector, I think all three of them, and Murray actually started in law enforcement, and a lot of his staff is retired law enforcement, and that's where that was their initial niche into this industry. Two of the companies are nationwide. One focuses just on California. Years of experience, they all had over 30 years, although the CPS was 30 years in Canada and only 13 years in the United States. Water experience, all three of them had. Now, references provided, although Murray listed a whole list of, I guess, every recruitment they'd ever done, for the current contact references, they provided 4, 8 CPS 4, and then COF 28, all active recruitments that you could talk to somebody. Repeat business, I'm sure all three of them had repeat business. It was clearly stated in the CPS proposal that this was very important to them, and then COF presented a strong list. They would do a background check on the final candidates. They searched public records, Murray and CPS, and then COF if requested. And then a sample brochure, we saw 2 submitted with the first 2, and then COF didn't submit one with this proposal, but we had seen samples of their brochure when we made the 5-0 vote to proceed with recruitment. Advertising, it looked like to me that the other CPS and COF had more up-to-date, where they used LinkedIn and webs and more social media than Murray. And the staff resumes, as I mentioned before, Murray was mostly retired public safety, which is could be a plus or a minus. The CPS had the 14 years of experience, but COF actually had the most impressive, I thought, staff resumes. 2 of the companies included a diversity statement where they were proud of the fact that they emphasized that they would go out for diverse candidates and for women candidates. One of them didn't. And then how they would do a candidate profile development. One was through the individual meeting with the board. One was through a workshop where staff could attend. And one was the meeting with the board and department heads. And then negotiating a final contract. Murray, yes. COF, no. And CPS, it didn't state clearly if you asked them, and I'm assuming then that would be part of their extra expenses from their base price. So, for my mind, as I said, all 3 would do a good job for us. I kind of felt like I would eliminate CPS, and it would be between COF and Murray. So, let's discuss.
Dan, do you have any comments?
I was impressed by all of them when I read it, and I was blurry-eyed by the time I finished all 739 pages, but I don't, COF, it looks like, has kind of risen to the top. But
for me, too.
Mark?
I actually kind of like Murray just because I thought they were a little more basic, and I liked that. And I think you could save a little money with them, but...
And the backgrounds with all of the cops, that would be good.
Yeah.
Good
We'll
background.
be safe, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with Mark. I thought Murray was the one I would pick too.
And I could go either way.
I like old school.
Yeah.
See, I've already lost. I thought we'd be better off with local and not spending the money. So I will actually, I read all 3 of them a month ago, and I found the original copies that I had at home. In spite of the, I wondered why the this was so thick. Well, folks, almost a third or fourth of it, and probably a third, is just this. So what impressed me in reading them was how many had candidates from jobs in companies in the North Sacramento Valley. So I think it was COP, I'm not sure, that had the most placements in this area. But that was what was important to me. I wanted to see they had experience. I remember one firm that placed somebody in Red Bluff and somebody maybe in Willows and down, Yolo County, what have you. Most of them have been in the Bay Area and Sacramento, and which makes sense because there's lots of jobs there compared to up in the Sacramento Valley. So, can I have a motion or no? Public, I'm sorry, your turn. Okay, Lucy.
Lauren Harvey.
Lauren.
Please spend the money to get a professional. You can see how good the recall turned out. We saved millions on that treatment plant. Thank you.
So do we need to make a motion?
Yeah, if they're done.
Is there any other comments from the public? It just grins and smiles. Okay. You don't have anything to say, Bob? You're cold?
I made up my mind which one I would take.
Oh, what's that?
I go with call there. I look at that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'll make the motion then.
It looks like somebody else is getting ready. Do you want to comment, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Martin, go ahead.
Go for it, Marty.
I don't think you can make a mistake tonight. This is one of those easy decisions. I personally have worked with CPS and Murray, and I'd recommend Murray. A better candidate experience, much better in working with the candidates than CPS in my experience. And Murray has the advantage of they're the recruiting firm that hired the current Butte County CAO.
One observation question, which to me seems like important these days: the advertising/recruitment, mail, phone, and journals versus all of the new techie stuff. I wonder if we could just talk to them and say, "You guys
There's no way that they don't recruit through websites.
Right.
And
It would
there's just
seem
no
like
way.
Yeah,
because
but
you
it wasn't
can't
in
just
their
get in
packet.
journals.
Journals
and-
can be online now, you know.
Yeah,
and
that's
correct.
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
And I'm sure that they are. But hopefully they would do all of and I'm about as techie as a seat belt, but I don't. It seems like these days you have to do everything that you can.
It may be something they just figured was implied.
Yeah,
They didn't-
and it could be.
Okay, so I'm going to make the motion that
I think, Kevin, you had...
I think I need to say something because I do have connections within the water agency, and one of the agencies that I do have connections with did just hire Bob Murray to do a recruitment for a general manager for a water district, and they were not satisfied with his services.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did warn me on that, and I just kind of want to leave it at that point. Very reputable district, and according to them, they were not.
What were the issues they had?
I don't want to defame them. There was issues with background check type of details that didn't come out till the final.
Exactly the opposite of what I said. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Really.
I think you made our decision easier.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we give the RFP to the COF for recruiting a district manager.
I guess I'll second that since I was a fence sitter.
Any further discussion by the board? None? Any further discussion by the public? Have none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll go with that.
Aye. Make it unanimous. It's all 5 zips. You won, Ann. Hope they come through
You're
for us.
welcome. I did that on jury duty day.
Oh, you.
Very impressive.
Still cold in here, man.
Okay. All right. Spillway investigation.
Back to the
Oh,
agenda.
goody.
Let's find out what we're doing.
So on May 12th, I'm just going to kind of give a background. May 12th, we received a letter from the Division of Safety of Dams that we needed to do a work plan for a comprehensive investigation of our spillways. both the Paradise and Magalia. 1 sec, I'm trying to get there. There we go. The requirement to get a work plan to them was, I believe, was it June 15th? Which we felt was extremely aggressive. So we did get in contact with them, and we had asked for an extension for that. They gave us an extension to September 1st. We also wrote a letter to them to kind of explain to us what this means. What are you talking about? There was reconnaissance, investigation, and observations. And so we wrote the letter to the division head, which was Sharon Tapia, and she did get back to me fairly quickly once she received the letter and asked if there was opportunity for us to go down and sit with them and discuss the letter, what they're asking for, and their reconnaissance investigation. So on July 7th, myself, Neil Esla, and Gentera, which is Joe Kulakowski, who is the principal of Gentera. We met him in Sacramento. We went over the issues at his office beforehand, and then we both went over, or all three of us went over to the Division of Safety of Dams office. When we got there, they had a team of 10 in the room to give us a comprehensive evaluation of our spillways. Wow. I must say that they were well prepared for us, and they gave a presentation that I felt was actually fairly good. Neil's here today to kind of walk through the presentation, kind of what they gave. It's not going to be word for word or any of that, but I did request that they gave us their slideshow to present to you guys so that we can present to you guys what they presented to us, so you guys have an understanding of what the requirements they're looking for us to do, so that when you see the Gentera contract here, you know exactly what that entails and what they're asking for. So at this, I'm going to put on the slideshow, and I'm going to have Neil come up and present.
Does the confidential on it mean that we shouldn't have the reporter report?
I asked for it to present to the board, and they did send it to me. So we're not distributing it out. That's why it's not in your packet. But it is an open meeting, and so this will be something that is...
Are these those surveillance photos we heard about?
This is it. Google Maps. Google Earth.
That's precise, isn't it?
They have more surveillance photos.
Okay.
So we had a 2-hour presentation / meeting with DSOD. So I'm going to be trying to boil that way down.
Thank you.
For obvious reasons. So what they outlined to us, the DSOD staff outlined to us as concerns, starting with Paradise. I'm just going to kind of give you the list from my notes of what they were concerned about, some of the things that led them to believe that we should do this kind of investigation. At Paradise, they're concerned about piezometer water levels on Paradise piezometer 1F. That's something that's telling them something about the way the water is behaving at the foundation on the left side of the dam near the spillway. And there's been some notations about concern about that one for some time. And that'll link in to their concern about seeps in the upper spillway. And you'll see that in the photos that follow. They're concerned about the way water is seeping from the spillway joints. Another concern they talked about was that there's no transverse water stops. That's one of the reasons why that water is surfacing out of those joints. It's also disappearing into those joints. That's another thing.
Did you say transverse water stops?
Water stops. Yeah, I'll back up. Water stops are, well, when you cast concrete, as Dan would be able to tell you, you can't cast it in an infinite distance. The spillway is long. It's hundreds of feet long. And so it's cast in sections. Yeah. And those sections have control joints. And those control joints then should have water stops at those joints to keep the water from being able to go down or up through those joints. That's something that in the failure at Oroville, that's been implicated as one of the issues that water was going from the top of the spillway to under the spillway. And they're concerned about that kind of migration of water because water, as they pointed out, has significant erosive potential. Water can move things around and take them away. And that's something they don't like to see happen underneath the spillway slabs. So they're concerned about the fact that these transverse joints, that is the joints that run from one wall of the spillway to another as it's this sloping concrete ramp, those don't have water stops. The longitudinal joints at the walls do have water stops, but for whatever reason, the transverse joints don't.
And the spillway that you're speaking of right now, is that Magalia or
No,
Paradise?
This is Paradise I'm starting
Thank
with. Yeah. So they're concerned about that, and then they're concerned about the seeps in the upper spillway, and they're also concerned about a seep at one joint in the lower spillway at Paradise. They're also looking at concerns about some of the geologic mapping that they have of that area, that there's signs of shearing. And they're mentioned concern about clogging of the weep holes. That's kind of typical, really, because when water comes out, it provides a growth media for plants and mosses and things like that. Those things proliferate, and then they clog up the drainage. But it could also be a concern if there's material coming out in addition to water. They also mentioned concern about undercutting of the flip bucket, which is the structure at the bottom of the spillway, which basically stops the water from traveling off the end of the spillway with so much horizontal speed. And then they were concerned about a stream of water that flows off the hillside and comes into contact with the spillway near the flip bucket. So if we can take a look at
Are those pictures of our dam being constructed?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had historical pictures of this was the original dam being constructed.
This is.
I mean,
it
the
was
original
raised
spillway.
later on.
Spillway, yeah, right.
Did they rebuild the spillway when they raised it?
Correct.
Yes.
So this was the original spillway.
And they had this. They already had these photos when you went to meet with them.
Oh yeah.
1956.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep. And so that was the original spillway. And then when they raised the dam, they built a new spillway, which this is pictures of the new spillway being constructed. Mm-hmm. And you can see that there is rebar in there.
Yeah.
And that they even knew that the original spillway actually had a flaw in it. Or no, the new spillway had a flaw that they had to come back and redo a year later because they took out too much material in one section, and it started to fail, I believe. So they could see in these photos the under drains that are supposed to be being used also. So you can see right here, I think, was where the damage was on the original on the new spillway that they had to come in and redo. Which I think that's the picture of them redoing the spillway.
Who provided those pictures? Did we to them?
The district and its engineers probably would have provided those pictures.
Right.
I don't know that we have any of those pictures. Well, we might have some of those pictures, but not all of them.
But we didn't provide them before the meeting. They had them on site, and they created this PowerPoint presentation for us.
How'd they get them if we don't have them?
Many of those pictures might have been taken by their engineers who were inspecting
Yeah.
the construction process.
You're talking about the Bureau of Dam Safety, is that who you're talking to?
Yes.
So they have all the historical records of our dams then?
They have extensive records.
That would sure be neat to have a
That's
bunch of
their
those.
job.
I'd love to see that.
Do you want it on this one?
Yeah. So
You can
in this
see all the seeping,
picture,
yeah.
we're looking at the upper part of Paradise Spillway, and you can see that there's water seeps that are coming out of the cracks there.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's another photo after that that's maybe a little better at showing some of those. Yeah, it's a little hard to see there on the wall, but I think it shows up maybe better on your monitors. You can see that there's a kind of a wet spot there above the little hand icon, and then it's dry again below that, where the water has run down. It's come out of a crack right where the hand is now, and then it's re-entered the next spillway seam there, and so then it's dry in the next panel, and then wet in the next panel.
Underneath.
So they're concerned about this water movement in and out of those joints that it could conceivably cause erosion underneath the spillway. You can see on the left photo, again, you can see some streaking there toward the bottom of the spillway. That's the seam that they're concerned about there. That joint seems to be making water. And then this view on the right is looking down the spillway from at the bridge, where the spillway basically gets much steeper. And you can see at the bottom of the flip bucket has a fair amount of water in it. That's something they also expressed concern about. It's not really surprising that that flip bucket fills with water. It only has 2 4-inch diameter drains. And if all that ever went into the flip bucket was water, those would work fine, but there's lots of moss and other material that builds up on the spillway, and then that when there's a flow, it scours that stuff off and it goes down there and immediately clogs those drains. It's virtually impossible to keep those small drains clear with all of the plant material that goes down there.
Joints, I wonder if you could do some epoxy injection,
That's immediately what I thought too. High pressure epoxy injection.
Yeah.
But I think they'll tell us what needs to be done.
Yeah, they'll tell us.
If you've already
solve
got,
it right here. Come on.
If you've already got water intruding underneath,
Yeah, that's not good.
then can they determine, if any, the amount of erosion underneath there and then estimate the probability of failure like they did at Oroville or had at Oroville?
It's entirely likely that we'll need to investigate that fairly thoroughly. There are ways that you can, through non-destructive testing, try to identify voids underneath concrete like that. And if that suggests that there may be voids, then we might need to do coring, drilling through the slab to find out what's actually going on down there. And of course, if there's any voids, we would almost certainly have to make repairs that would fill those voids to their satisfaction.
Do we have a plan for, because the biggest failure I saw in Oroville was their backup plan was a dirt hill with trees. And if they'd have had a secondary spillway, they would have been able to turn that one off while they repaired it. And I still don't understand why they're not building a second spillway right now and then switching over and then having the luxury of doing the other one correctly.
There's talk of a second spillway now.
They should have been talking about that 6 months or 3 months ago. Do we have any other means if we have to tear this thing up? Where does that leave us?
We have one spillway and only one. The only other way that water can properly be leaving Paradise Reservoir is through the outlet works. And that's a relatively small diameter. It's like a 42-inch, I think, pipe. But you can imagine that if you have a stream flowing hard, that 42-inch pipe is not going to carry all of that water. It certainly doesn't carry the same amount of water that goes over an 80-foot wide spillway.
So you're saying that the Paradise Lake has no emergency spillway? Just one spillway?
There's one spillway.
Keep in mind,
that does it all. Emergencies and normal
Magalia has a spillway.
Well, more importantly, my concern is that if we only have one way to get water to the plant and we have to shut that off, what do we do?
Right now, you've got Magalia.
Well, actually, the water goes to the plant through the outlet.
Yeah, through the pipe.
Not
through
via
pipes,
the spillway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a problem with some of the valves.
So this is just for the overflow that we don't.
Right. The spillway is the structure that safely dissipates an excess amount of water going into the reservoir.
Okay.
It's not in use now, I don't think. We're not spilling anymore.
No, not anymore.
2.8, almost 3 feet.
Oh, well.
Spillway, below spill.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were spilling less.
going down, which it should this time.
This Cliff's watering his lawn, yeah.
So in the next photo that you see here, you can see in the left-hand frame there's a fair amount of like dried moss on there. That's something that grows in the presence of water, which is often seeping out. In the right-hand photo, you can see a drain there that comes out of the wall. That drain collects water from underneath the slab and then dissipates it through the wall. And you can see that there's a fair amount of grass and other material that's growing there. And that's because it's always wet, and the moss provides a growth media for the grass, and pretty soon we've got sod there on the spillway, and it's an a perpetual job to try to keep that stuff under control. Here, in the very kind of center of this picture, you can see indistinctly a leak out of the side of the spillway. This is down toward the bottom near the flip bucket, and there's water on the spillway at this time, and it's leaking out through the side.
And that's all the way down on the end when we're not spilling.
Actually, we were spilling there. The spillway had a little bit of water on it, so that's
did.
why it was leaking out of the spillway onto the side. The left-hand photo, you can see a lot of vegetation there that they don't like. Actually, that's not a current view of the way the vegetation looks next to the spillway. It's much cleaner than that. But that vegetation there that you see on the right-hand side of the spillway in this left-hand photo is actually the area where they're concerned about this little stream that runs down the natural hillside and encounters the side of the spillway there, and they're concerned about what that water might be doing when it gets there. And then the right-hand photo is a picture of the front edge of the flip bucket. That's kind of the downstream side, and you can see two small 4-inch diameter pipes there. Those are the drains for the flip bucket. So you can imagine those don't make much water, and in this case they don't look like they're leaking at all, but I would guess that the flip bucket's probably not empty. Here you can see the foundation at the base of the flip bucket, and you can see a concrete slab there toward the top of the picture, and then a lot of rock. That's basically bedrock there at the bottom, but you can see that slab has been undercut, probably a distance of maybe a couple of feet, and that's something that they don't really like the looks of, is that rock has been eroded and the slab has been undercut. Okay, so Magalia Dam, they had a different list of concerns, and basically those bulleted points are that they're concerned about vegetation, particularly within the channel immediately downstream of the spillway, and also the channel as it kind of travels along the base of the dam. At the downstream toe, there's a fair amount of vegetation there that has been removed, but we still have some trees there that they'd like to see removed because they're concerned that those trees might tend to deflect the flow of the stream against the toe of the dam and cause erosion. They expressed a number of concerns about the right spillway wall and its extension. The right spillway wall was constructed over a number of years in what sounded like maybe 4 or 5 separate construction intervals. It's been built and added onto and modified and so forth. So they're really concerned about that spillway wall. There were a couple of piezometers that they also identified as being problematic, and those 2 piezometers that they're concerned about are on the left-hand side of the dam near the spillway.
How do you view a dam? From water behind you or water in front of you?
Water behind you.
Behind you.
It's looking downstream, so the right-hand side, in the case of Magalia, would be the west side of the dam.
This wall right here.
See the dates on the pictures, not in 1930s.
Yeah.
That wall right there is the one they're concerned about, and it's because there wasn't a wall here originally. So when that wall came into effect, it was actually, I think they were happy with the construction of that wall whenever that left-hand side wall came into effect. But this one has been there for a long, long time, and I think maybe has been repaired a few times, but nothing of substance.
Yeah, it seems like it's been kind of tacked onto as an afterthought more than once.
Right.
Another concern that they had is that the spillway at Magalia is founded on serpentinite, and they've seen historically a fair amount of serpentine undercutting in the original spillway slab. Although much of the original weathered rock and damaged material was removed in 1934, they were talking about cracking of the right side wall, also that the right side spillway wall is tilting, and then on the left side they were concerned about the left wall being damaged by a boulder that looks like it struck that wall and gouged out a fairly significant chunk. So is this our starting point on these?
This is the wall they're concerned about for
Damaged by a boulder.
Let's see if I can get a better.
That's a new wall, isn't it? The newest wall. It's the one we cut behind when we put in the bypass pipeline to see what the condition of the dam was. We opened it up, right, Niels?
That's the right wall. Yeah, we cut away behind the right wall to put
and
the
then we had to
bypass
put it
pipeline.
back in. Bureau of Dam Safety wasn't happy with us.
Very interesting.
What do you, but I don't know if there's a good, tell me just when to stop.
Well, if you could just start with the first of the Magalia Dam.
So,
Yeah, okay, so the spillway there is under the paw, and you can see that it's a fairly large, flat concrete structure. It's not like Paradise at all. Paradise spillway is quite steep. This one is basically like a large level slab.
That's all the vegetation down through here that they're concerned about.
Right.
You'd think they'd like it so it'd slow the progress of the water, huh?
They don't want it slowed. They want it speeded up.
Good point.
Well, so it can erode more? Yeah, that didn't make
This
any
is where
sense.
they're considering the Magalia Fault based on their geological mapping from 1930. And that's our spillway.
That fault's in a different area from the other fault that's been used.
So these two red circled areas are the areas that they expressed concern about the vegetation along the channel.
Well, that shouldn't be hard to cure, should it?
Yeah, that's easy.
It's just hard to keep it cured.
Just ongoing.
The stuff grows back so fast. You know, there's cattails that probably will basically establish themselves in 3 months.
Transfer them up to the wetlands.
Yeah.
are they concerned about the vegetation there because they think that it's
We have
growing
our own
because of
wetlands right now.
seepage? Or just
Vegetation.
because that it
Bring you a
rooted
bucket,
in
Bill.
and destroyed?
The vegetation, I'm sorry,
Are they concerned about the vegetation because it indicates seepage, or are they concerned that it would grow and intrude into the?
Both.
they're concerned that it will act to impede the flow of water. Basically, all that vegetation in there could snag logs that would float downstream and
So they're
whatnot.
only concerned when you use the spillway, and that's no indication that they have excessive water there for growth or any of that type of thing, right?
Yeah, it's not really I mean, we can't get it dry enough to keep the plants from growing, which is why the vegetation is such a problem.
Right.
But they're concerned about the vegetation holding back the water. They want it to leave the spillway and proceed quickly away. And if it backs up, it just means that it holds water in the spillway, which tends to raise the water behind the dam.
And the reason why they're concerned mostly too is that the spillway is on the wrong side of the dam. That the water that leaves the spillway then passes around
Back over
the dam.
underneath, yeah.
So any type of obstruction, you're creating a dam, that water then can back up and intrude and impede the dam. So that's the reason why they want that cleared, is so that there's no backup of water to actually undermine the dam.
Yeah, they need drainage. Okay.
Right.
You know how easy it'd be to just gunite that whole ditch? But anyway, that's what we'd pay them to tell us to do.
So these are some old pictures of the spillway back in the 1950s on the left-hand side there. That one on the right-hand side is actually quite recent. That's, I believe, February 10th of 2017.
Yeah, this year it looks like.
We had 1.6 feet of water on the spillway. And these are some photos from the 1930s when they were experiencing a fair amount of damage to the rock under the spillway, and that cutoff wall that you see on the right-hand photo was undermined, and you can see that on the left-hand side of that cutoff wall in that right-hand photo that there's a fair amount of what looks like just a pile of rocks as opposed to an actual spillway slab.
Yeah,
So
rubble.
it looks like it was pretty beat up in that time frame, and they did a number of repairs. And you can see in the left-hand photo there that there was no left wall at that time because we're looking downstream, so the right is on the right and the left is on the left. And you can see the right wall there, but there was no left wall in that time frame. It wasn't one until the 50s. There's a sketch of what the right-hand wall looks like. The upstream side is on the right, and the downstream side is on the left. And that thing was built over a course of a number of years, and it's quite thin. You can actually probably read the dimensioning there on that thing, that it's 6 inches thick at the upstream end of that wall, and that's something that they expressed quite a good deal of concern about, because they're concerned that when we actually would have a good-sized spill there, that very thin wall would tend to be cut off and broken off or topple the entire wall by the water kind of curving as it comes onto that spillway, because the spillway is actually quite far to the left, so the water has to kind of turn a little bit make a right turn as it goes onto the spillway, so it wants to cut off that right wall. Some more great old pictures here of the spillway structure.
Yeah, I was wondering what the photo was hidden underneath the other photo of the last picture you had up. Going back one more. What's that picture behind that?
It's they glued two pictures together to
Yeah,
make one.
They were probably on facing pages in a book. And
Well, there's a photo behind it and then a drawing over the top
Yeah.
of it. I was trying to make out the photo.
I guess what we just need to do is just simply approve this. What other choice do we have at this juncture, huh? Because this $29,000, as they're proposing, will go ahead and pay for them to get started on coming up with a plan for us. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically what our recommendation is that we need to go forward with this. This is just to give you a chance to hear what we heard at DSOD, so you kind of have an idea of why we're going to be spending this money, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Yeah, some pictures there from many years ago. Here was a massive remodel of the spillway that was done. I believe this is from the 1950s. If you keep going, that's 1955. So back in that time frame, the spillway was repaired yet again, and they did a fairly decent job of that, I think. But the history of repeated erosion and damage there, they want to have us look at it again. There's the left spillway wall being constructed for the first time in 1955.
May I interject something? I did, as per our conversation at the last meeting, I did call both Nielsen's and Gallagher's office, gave them a little bit of information, and said, please call Kevin. And Kevin was contacted, or through the process you worked with him. And since then I have talked to only reps from their offices, but I've told them the importance of, because of what's happened at Oroville's not paying for it, so why should Paradise have to pay for this? And so I just encourage both of them to do as much as they can, as fast as they can, because this is not a we have to do this today process. But we need advocates at legislative level to start working with us so that this is a California problem, not a Paradise problem.
I think,
And
Dan,
so it might work and it might not. We're going to see. But
the problem is we own this one, Oroville doesn't own that one.
well, and I know that this is privately owned. However, well, kind of, yeah, but it's still a universal problem in California. It's not just something that our dam is experiencing. It's Oroville, and all of a sudden that's kicked all of them in. And so what I, again, talking to legislators about is this: they're going to have to come up with some kind of giant bond in California where everybody gets assistance on their dams and spillways.
Yeah,
Will it work or not? I don't know, but this is something that I'm going to keep pounding with them, and they're going to have to push. And I have gotten some. Yes, exactly. I have gotten some feedback from Gallagher's office, not Nielsen's, but they sent me some stuff on it and so on, and so they're working on it. So, and I know that Kevin has talked to them about that, and they've talked to Kevin, and I'm going to keep pushing on that because, again, that's a California problem, This is not our problem; it's everybody's problem.
This sounds like this could quickly eclipse or wastewater recycle as a priority item, because if we don't address this now, we may have to address it when it's inappropriate, like Oroville had to, and that's not going to be cool.
Well, that's the reason we have to go ahead and give them approval to get started so we can find out.
Oh, we definitely will.
Neil and Kevin, was there anything that caught you by surprise at that meeting? I mean, anything from left field that...
Positive surprises.
What's that?
Yeah, there were
some positive surprises.
There were a couple of surprises. I asked them specifically about correspondence that the district received from their office 25 years ago, saying that if we didn't fix the dam, we were going to have to lower the spillway, because I don't want us to spend $1 million mandating the spillway and then be told right after that we have to lower the spillway and have all that money wasted.
Yeah.
And their response was rather surprising. They said, well, if you haven't decided that you're going to fix the dam, then we don't want to make you lower the spillway. Because if we do make you do that, and then you decide to fix the dam, then you'll have to undo all that work.
We said, okay.
Perfect. Yeah. So nothing was said about a time frame to decide
Yeah.
or anything like that. It was left completely
Right.
open-ended. So 25 years have elapsed, and nothing has changed. And so it doesn't sound like we're going to be under any kind of constraint until something political happens that changes their mind, I guess. I also asked about whether they considered the hydraulic capacity of Magalia Spillway adequate. And they said that they had a study that they had done in-house back in 1987, I think it was, that they felt satisfied with that. And that I also found as a rather unusual response, but if they're okay, I think we're okay.
Yeah.
They thought it was adequate.
I mean, with the spillway capacity at Magalia, you said?
Magalia,
Okay,
yes.
and so they're comfortable with the restriction on the capacity that we have now, or they were comfortable with something higher?
They were comfortable with the hydraulics of the spillway, which really isn't an issue of the restriction
Okay,
on storage. It's an issue of, is the spillway capable of passing the design flood?
okay. Thank you.
So those were two answers that I found a little surprising, but they're actually some things that will buy us some time, I guess.
If they determine that there may be erosion underneath those joints, and they core test it and find out that there is erosion, what's the recourse? Is it rip up the whole thing and rebuild?
That's going to be for our
Right. See, I was just going to offer a tiny bit, and to me, this all sounds pretty easy. It does depend on the extent of it, but just like you were saying and he was saying, core samples, and you can grout. You can high-pressure grout into a cavity if you know that it's there and the size of it and so on. So to me, this all sounds pretty doable. This is not extreme. Because of the fact that, again, what happened at Oroville happened because there was no rebar. That would have happened over a long period of time, and they would have had time to have dealt with it if there had been rebar.
Actually, there was rebar in that.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't one stitch in the ramp. On the walls, yes.
Yeah.
Zero in the ramp.
See the pictures, some of them there was none, and
If
some...
you zero in on the close-ups, there was rebar, there just wasn't enough.
Yeah, yeah.
At every piece that I saw in every picture up close, there was none in the spillway.
Yeah.
On the sides.
Yeah.
But anyway, but it was interesting seeing in the pictures here that it's like 12-inch centers, high and low levels, and so it's strong.
We're not doing the spillway.
Right, correct.
Yeah, well, let's...
I'm sorry, Bill.
Okay, so, yeah.
But to me,
so
it looks good.
just to wrap this all up, so now you've seen what they saw, and so the end result is this is going to be a phased approach. Okay.
Good.
So the first phase of this is to get a work plan to the Division of Safety of Dams that they approve. That means that it's only for the phase one investigation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Phase one so what they have to do is they have to kind of present what they're going to do, what they're going to look at, and then they approve it, and then they execute that work plan as of phase one. After phase one's approved, because we don't know what phase one work plan is going to be, then you will get a proposal back from Gentera on what the execution of phase one will cost.
Mm-hmm.
After phase one is completed, then they're going to take the results of that and that say phase one shows that there's nothing under the dam. Then Gentera will have to go back to the Division of Safety of Dams and give them another work plan of what phase two is going to entail, and they will have to approve that. Then the execution of phase two then will come to you guys. So you guys are going to be part of this on as each phase comes together.
Mm-hmm.
You guys will be part of approving their workflow and their work plan.
Niels, is there anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm just waiting in case there were any questions, but I can...
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We need a motion on...
I have a question.
Oh, you got a question?
Just on when I was reading all the pages from this...
Gentera, yeah.
Gentera, and when it mentioned vegetation as well, and so did Neil. So do we have some kind of ongoing plan to control vegetation?
Yeah. Well, at least since I've been here, We use CAL FIRE.
Okay.
They scour the downstream area of all the vegetation that's in there. And we use that, you've been doing that yearly, and Greg Dobbs manages CAL FIRE crews. So that's how we deal inexpensively with removal of vegetation. We've also thinned trees. Now, didn't take every single tree out. There was the trees that were kind of in the center. I'm guessing 7 to 8 trees were removed that they're concerned about that would divert the water towards the dam. So we did tree removal. That's the extent of using CAL FIRE crews.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin, did you have something more to say?
No, I just wanted to kind of sum that up into what we're looking for going forward.
Thank you. I move we accept the proposal from Jen Terra as is presented in the report.
I'll second that.
Any more debate at all?
One more thing, too, is that Joe was very respected by the Division of Safety of Dams staff.
Good, that's what we like.
He's one that has worked with them on multiple dams throughout the state, and he is very well respected within the community. So I just wanted to pass that on, too.
Super.
We have a motion and a second, and I don't see anybody from the public that want to say anything. So, call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Process Water Recycle Project, State Revolving Fund loan update. We've heard most of that, haven't we, already?
No. So what we do? Okay, so you heard kind of the process of what we're doing. We're splitting the process up now into a design phase and a construction phase. And with the design phase, you have to have a plan study to kind of give the information to the SRF of what you're trying to accomplish. So Jim has put together the plan study, and he wanted to just get your guys' buy-in on what the plan study was saying, so that when it went to the SRF, he had board support.
This is my version of transparency. After I wrote this plan of study, we have to show the public. You have to look at it. This tells a story where we're at. The history and future, based on what George's memos and the NPDES permit renewal, it's all there. Now, this type of work makes the State Revolving Fund staff, I think, comfortable with where we're going. The main comment I want to make about State Revolving Fund is they support us so far. The manager who has been there forever, who set policy for State Revolving Fund, helped us when things changed. He knew we had a construction agreement that was basically ready to implement. Based on George and Kevin, what they told me is I pursued this planning and design application, and it went through SRF staff and the manager of the program, who, like I mentioned, said, yes, this is the right way to go. So getting that far for him to concur with both applications, which is maybe a little unusual, to do it, kind of unusual to kind of restart the application process. So we have support from State Revolving Fund.
Good.
The other thing is, the comment was made how difficult State Revolving Fund is. It's a whole lot of hurdles, which people like me and George and Kevin handle gracefully without effort. People that are delegated assignments. This is the type of work we do. State Revolving Fund compliance applications. It's not it's not overwhelming. It's just bureaucracy. All the resolutions and things, certification letters and all the application attachments, they're just hurdles. They've already, the ones we used in the construction application were reused in the planning. That's how simple is that? Simple. Okay, so greasing the skids with the manager of SRF, submitting them the way they wanted it, all the application attachments at one time, and a very thorough plan of study, which I hope. So we're waiting. They're now reviewing. We're in the process of their review of our application. So I'm waiting to hear back on any questions. So I don't expect much of anything. So we can move on to the next phase. And it does reimburse us for the past design. They realize that projects change. And that's kind of what the comment I got back. Yes, the 1.8 million on the Lamella option and the 70% design, things change. They're realistic people. They've seen agencies struggle and flounder, so to speak, like ours, many of them. And I keep kind of bringing that up as a positive thing. We're not really setting new precedents that other agencies. Now we are a compliance project. We have compliance issues. If we didn't have this really strong compliance issue, they wouldn't be as eager to fund us. So because we have a compliance project, that's their job, is to help us fund project. But let's figure out, okay, let's get to a project.
I thought this looked pretty good, Jim.
Shovel-ready fund.
This looks good. I read this, and it's readable. It takes you right through it.
Yeah.
The history.
It was restructured. Originally I had the pond alternative emphasized. Kind of Bill were saying, put it in the appendix. The NPDES permit renewal is really the beginning of then the projects. And I was kind of pushing George's think. I know we're going to do pond rehabilitation, which is why I kind of had it in there. But now it's emphasizing permit renewal. So that was restructured.
That's good.
And maybe you can appreciate why we did that. I guess if... with those comments,
This person you have a rapport with, he's not going to be retiring soon or anything, is he?
Hope not.
I've met him twice.
He's
got a great job.
We have a good rapport with a lot of the staff there.
That's
too.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you did a great job, and I thought it was clear. You gave us a history of where we came from, where we are now, and where we can proceed. I thought where you broke it out with the timeline. You had on one side the 4 million broken out, and the other side the timeline, I thought was excellent.
Yep.
And when you broke out the side projects, I was happy to see that we had possible grant funding for some, and we had overlap maybe with the Site B reservoir for some. So I think we're doing well, and I think we should proceed just as you've indicated.
What we called project components in the other project. The core project was the labellas, but then we had these, move the hypochlorite, deal with the components. Okay,
Right, this can still be.
What's interesting is if we are successful with the grant to build an A-zone pipeline or an A-zone pump station, replacing the generator, we're going to have to move. Those used to be components. If we get this grant money, we're going to have to move forward. And I still want to call it Process Water Recycle Project, but Phase 1 construction. I mean, that's just me right now talking. Phase 2 would be the ultimate project, but because State Revolving Fund is looking at Process Water Recycle Project, we have, if we get grants, we have Phase 1, this grant project, which you kind of, if you looked at it, you saw my notes. So staff has already planned those project components. If we're successful to get a grant, they expect us to build. Get shovel ready as quickly as we can, so to speak, and use that grant money. So those are the projects.
Now the money that, if you split it, And you're going to split it hopefully so that you can get the money we've already spent on the design from ACOM. Where does that money go back to? What fund? Is that unrestricted? Is that?
Probably has to go back into capacity fees.
What?
The capacity?
Yeah,
okay.
That's where it came from.
Okay.
That would make sense. Yeah.
And I got a question too. You were talking about capital projects earlier tonight and all the projects prioritizing. Okay, Jim. So my question is, like, some of these projects at the plant, some of these items in the plant that were in the recycle process water design. Are we thinking of maybe taking those separately and doing those, because we're years away from this pond alternative project, I'm going to call it. So are we thinking of pulling some of those out and doing those separately?
That's what he's saying.
Because if we get these grant funds,
okay,
staff believes these are projects we need to do. We need to convince you that we need to do these, of course. You have to prove them. Now, that list, that table that had all these has justification.
Right.
Quiz us to if we don't justify those components that staff says we need to do these,
right.
and if we can't, and if they're not justified adequately, then let us know, and we'll tell you more details. And that's
And
I like phase one. That's what I want to try to call phase one, because it's SRF funded under Process Water Recycle Project. We still have one. They haven't changed. Just because the Lamella alternative went doesn't mean our project,
right,
Process Water Recycle Project, goes away. It's just, okay. That's what they're still hanging this on. We just have two applications, one's for design, one's for construction.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you wanted to proceed with, or we need to proceed with something immediately, is what I was thinking, like next budget year is what I'm thinking.
So how we budgeted it was, we did break out those components that are included in that grant application for the current budget cycle. And just to remind you, the grant, I believe, is $3.7 million total, with a 25% share. So our 25% share is $900,000 of that portion.
Okay, so we're already right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be part of the budget cycle this year, would be that $900,000 for those components that are included in that grant project.
I analyze all that. At the end of the table, I try to put all that
I guess I
money
missed
in
that.
perspective.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I like the fact that because they were part of the original recycle, we have 70% design on them. And I like the fact that we're going to...
In some.
Not some. And I like the fact that we're going to move the hypochlorite tanks and that we're going to have the ability to post-chlorinate.
So what direction do you need from us other than just kind of concur and keep going?
That was it.
It's really kind of a standard. To kind of ask you to review and comment, kind of ask you to read it, first of all. But any policy direction on just say you were headed down the right way, or that's kind of standard for staff to want you to
On the side
see
projects,
what's on your mind.
Ian mentioned something that's really important. Post-chlorination means less pre-chlorination, which means less DCBMs going back into the Magalia Reservoir, which means easing on our permit application. So that, I think, should move something like that to a higher priority.
We hope
it's a possibility.
We hope what you're saying.
Well, we know that if you
It's
post-chlorinate,
yes,
you don't have to pre-chlorinate as much. We know if you don't pre-chlorinate as much, you got less carcinogen product going back into Magalia Reservoir, correct?
That's the dream.
The DCBMs
we studied
a correlation to the parts per million
Can we
chlorine on
talk
the pre-filtration,
in the
right?
future more about what we actually evaluated about what you're talking about. We have more detail about technical details about that.
You want to put it on next month's agenda, Jim?
Not yet. I don't think not yet. But
well, if there's a
you're kind of on the right track, but it's not as simple as. It's not simple.
Well, no, I get that. We're not going to eliminate pre-chlorination. I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm saying is, if we're looking that you said there would be a change in the our final permit limits, and if those will be less stringent than what they are, if we post-chlorinate, we use less pre-chlorinate, we have less DCBM residual to have to deal with, so in effect, we are better off. And if we're looking at prioritizing the side projects, that ought to be one that gets a little higher priority. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
right?
Yes.
This could be looked at in the pilot study if indeed we do a pilot study, because you talked about that if there's a need for a pilot study.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a pilot study, we certainly can include that in the pilot study.
And post-chlorination is going to be more effective. You've already taken the solids out. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I say then that we concur with staff that you continue to do what you're doing.
Does all the board agree with that?
Yes.
keep on trucking.
Okay, then let's move on to
Okay, next
public
on.
notice appropriation.
Is that what you said was, Jim?
Yeah. So I'm going to give a background of the appropriation limits. It was something that actually came into effect in like the 70s. I think it was 1977. And what it stated is that you had you only could collect a certain amount of property taxes that was appropriated to you. And I believe, I don't know what I think if you collected more than what you were allowed to collect, according to this appropriation limit, you had to kind of give them back to the state or somebody. I don't know. So, but what it gave you the option is you took those property taxes that you received in 77 and it gave you an escalation factor. Well, this appropriation limit was kind of forgot about forever and ever and ever and ever. And then in like 2014, I believe, or 2011, it was kind of brought back to life. And there was something that was required. If you didn't have the appropriation limit number, then you were going to do something. I think it was grant funding. And then the state controller's report required it to be on there. So what we had to do was go back to 1977 and figure out what our property tax revenue was at the time, and it was actually really close to what we already collect currently. But so then you were able to escalate that up over the factors from 77 to 2011 or 2014, and it gave us this astronomical number, like $1 million. So we couldn't. Our appropriation limit was that we couldn't collect more than $1 million of property tax revenue, and if we did, we had to kind of give it back. And so that's kind of been calculated, and it's a requirement that you calculate it every year and that it's approved by the board. So this is what that appropriation limit is that we cannot collect in 2017 more than $1.5 million in property tax revenue. We collect $250,000 of property tax revenue. So
I thought
we're in good shape.
That seems like such a low amount, too, to me.
Yeah.
But it's based on your 77. For some reason, it's based on the 77 property tax revenue for that. So
I meant the $250,000 that we collect seems very low to me.
It's 1% of the property tax that was based when Prop 1 came into effect. And, yeah,
that would.
Can I have a motion on the appropriation?
It's a resolution to just let.
A resolution?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you do have to make a motion.
Yeah, it still has to be a short motion.
Well, we also have to have a vote where we count each person.
Right, it's a roll call. Yeah.
The motion's first, and then
I move we approve the appropriation notice being sent to the state as given.
approve resolution number.
Oh, I forgot the number. That's right. I was looking. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Yes. Resolution number 2017-10. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Very good.
Georgiana, can you poll the board, please?
Director Redmond?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Yes.
Director Solar?
Yes.
Director Jacobson?
Yes.
Director Keller?
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Okay, next. Another resolution. Every year, based on how we are formed as an irrigation district, the water rates are attached to the property owners. So the only customers we have truly are the owners of the property. So, but that gives us the power that if the water rate is not paid, we can attach and lien the property. Therefore, when we lien the property, we send that over to the tax collector, and they add it to the property tax bill, and they just send us the money, even if they haven't collected it yet, because they have the option of
Put a lien on the
selling the
property.
property if it's unpaid. So every year we take our delinquent accounts and we add them, we send them over to the tax collector. It doesn't mean every one of these accounts is going to be liened on the property, because if they come in and pay it before it's the final date of the lien, then it's taken off of there.
Oh, good.
But once it's put on the property tax and liened, their account is clear.
Clever.
So then they have a free and clear account. So if they wanted to call up and go, hey, come unseal my water, okay, no big deal. They got water service back on because their account's paid. So that's what this is.
What's so sad is just the amount, $17.
Can I have a motion?
I move we approve Resolution 2017-11.
I'll second that.
Again, would you pull the board?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. The floor belongs to Cliff Jacobson.
Okay. Well, I think everybody's probably read this, and I'm not going to go into detail and read all this blow by blow, but suffice to say that although personally I have no problem with the bill, and I've struggled with this for quite a while, and I've stopped myself from putting this on the agenda many times, but I just feel like sometimes you get too involved and you let your personality get in the way, and it causes dysfunction on the board. And I'll speak for myself, but I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way from time to time. A few things I'll point out. I know that for some reason you harbor a resentment to Kevin, at least in my opinion, and that may or may not be justified. I wasn't here back then, but moving forward, this is a new board, and we all do think differently, and we're trying to do a good job here and be professional. And sometimes I feel like you're a loose cannon, and you're the president. You're supposed to set direction and the decorum and how people should act. And at times I feel like you're not the president. And I'll give you one case in point. Last board meeting, you refused to vote on an item, and it was tabling this headhunter for just 30 days, and you refused to vote on it because of your opinion of Kevin. Nothing to do with his performance, because as everybody will see, he's doing a great job, but because you've had issues in the past, you've let that cloud your judgment. So much to the point that you wouldn't even sign a simple document recommending him to be on a board that would help him be a better district manager that we all approve. And as the president, I don't think you have the luxury of saying, I didn't agree with that, and so I'm not going to sign it. It's your responsibility as the president to uphold our rules and regulations, our policies. And when the board collectively approves something, your job is to sign it. And you refuse to sign it. Georgiana had to call me, and I had to come up here the next day and sign it for you because I'm the vice president. And I shouldn't have had to have done that. And there's a few incidents like that, and like I say, I don't want to get into big detail about it, and you know some of them. And I just feel like I got to say that you need to do a better job of being the president, because it's not doing us any good. It's disruptive, and if it continues, I'm going to ask that we have a vote and vote for another president. And it's nothing personal. As a person, I like you, but here, I just feel like you're letting your feelings about things around here, and mostly from the past, cloud your judgment on how to be a good president. And I had to bring it to your attention. I've struggled with this many times, but And that's all I have to say on the matter, unless somebody else wants to say something on it.
I too have struggled with this. It's very disheartening to see such rudeness to people at the podium, to fellow members of the board, and especially to staff and legal counsel that I've observed. And I think it does interfere with us doing our job. You know, no board member, not you specifically, none of us should feel that we could publicly dress down staff or be rude to someone at the podium or be rude to each other. And no board member should be directly intervening with the day-to-day operations. And no board member should thwart the majority of the board. We each have our own opinions, but once the board speaks, then it's our job. We can say, yes, we disagreed with that decision, but it's our job collectively to move forward with the board policy. And no board member should show disagreement by getting angry or being rude. That's all I have to say.
Every person has different personalities and different gifts and talents, and having worked on probably far more than 20 different boards and councils and commissions and so on, I learned a lot from everybody. And even though I occasionally don't agree, possibly, Bill, with some of the things you've done, you have made a marked improvement over initially. You have done a better job than some of your predecessors at this position. And I feel confident that you will continue to get better and work with us as a team. And so he's not president for life. It's just a few more months. And when you guys are all here, when you're president, I will learn things from you. And Mark, when you're president, we'll learn things from you. And Cliff, when you're there, we'll learn things from you. And each one of us will, with our own God-given personality, handle a meeting differently. And each board member, as new board members come and go, alters the tenor of a board. Each different audience alters the tenor of the meeting, and a chairman has to learn to function and grow with and learn with and work with whatever the situation is at the time. And Bill, I think you have improved, and I appreciate it. And I have learned things from you. One big thing I've learned is there needs to be restroom breaks. I will make sure that if I ever have that position, that I will grant restroom breaks.
Wisdom.
Yeah. Anyway, we will work through this, and you're doing a better job every night, Bill, and I appreciate it.
Well, Bill, I got to say I've been frustrated, I ran one of my little sayings in my campaign, if you want to call it that, was respect for all, and that's exactly how I feel. And everybody, we have to show respect for everyone. Doesn't matter who you are. And I feel like you haven't had respect for some folks, and it really bothers me. It's not my style, and frankly, I don't want to put up with it. I won't put up with it, I'll tell you that right now. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I really like you. I enjoy being around you, but you've got to change how you handle and manage this board, and because we're moving forward, and I've said this from the past. I don't care what happened in the past. It doesn't mean anything to me right now. It's like it's today and tomorrow is what's important. So, and I think you can change, and I just hope you do, and we just keep moving forward and being positive and being respectful to everyone. That's it.
So it's just information. I don't want to beleaguer it. And you can certainly have whatever you want to say about it too. But I would hope that you would read these things that I put in here and think about them, because I think if you do, I think they're all pretty legitimate comments, and in fact, it's kind of ironic that this best practices in board staff relations was part of, I'm not sure who put that in there,
Mickey.
but
Mickey
was that you?
did.
Thank
Mickey.
you. But it kind of spells it all out too, just what I was trying to say, and it's, I think the biggest thing is you get too involved in stuff, and that's what we're not supposed to do. We're supposed to set the long-term goals and direction that's best for Paradise Irrigation District, and we're not supposed to interact and micromanage the day-to-day operations. And we're supposed to be, mature enough to not let personalities get in the way, but look at performance. What's getting done and what's not, and not personalities. And I think you got to look at that, and I hope you can do better at it, because I don't want your job. I don't want to be the president. But I'm telling you that if it feels to me like this is keeping up, then I'm going to ask the rest of the board to have a vote on it. And sadly, I don't want to do that, but I will.
Only two comments I'm going to make. I read it several times.
Okay.
Had all sorts of thoughts and stuff. I'm not going to use any of them. And I'm not going to be subject to intimidation. That doesn't work with me. I appreciate it if you want to call me and talk to me about something that wasn't right. One director did that, and I changed some things on the phone. It was personal communications, not saying who or what or why. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. This is the new item that Mickey has put together, was the board education. It's just written for you guys. I don't think we need to discuss it. It's just in there for you guys to kind of review and to maybe put into practice. I thought it was well written. And so if there's any questions, I can obviously answer them, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
It is.
This is an item that was asked to be put on, again, for an education purposes by Director Kellogg, which I have no problem explaining. He was asking about merit increases and how they are calculated or how they're given. Sorry it's so small, but this is straight out of the MOU with the management group. So this was what was voted on by the board when the MOU was passed to set these salary ranges. These are the ranges that each classification gets hired in at, and these are and you have a minimum range, which unless it's approved by the board, that's what they start at. And then you have the maximum range, which they cannot exceed. Some you will see actually do exceed that on their total compensation, because if you turn the page, there's cert pay. So there's other ways of earning pay that they can get based on certifications that they receive through education. So that's one option that they can actually get over their range by actually having cert pay on top of what they normally make. And if you read, it says, employees shall be eligible for an annual merit increase based on an employee's most recent performance appraisal, and an overall rating of satisfactory shall rate a 4% and more or less may be granted by the manager based on employee's performance. It's basically 4%, but if you're really crappy, you might get 2. If you're really outstanding, you might get 6 or 8. So that's where, so the manager has discretion over management's salary increases. Okay, does that all make sense?
Yep.
And it's set by the board, the ranges. The manager has the ability to move them within those ranges.
And obviously, the last one was
But Schedule
14,
B doesn't
yeah.
apply to management, right? The
Schedule B does apply to management also.
Oh, but so it's per hour, so they're hourly as well?
All management personnel are hourly paid. That is correct.
Oh,
I'm the only salaried employee here.
okay.
So every management employee is hourly paid.
So if we were to make changes, that we have to do it in
Through negotiations.
Right.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yes. So, is that all? And the other thing too, just these ranges move based on COLAs. So last year the range moved 0.3%.
Tiny little.
Right. This year it might move 2.2.
Yeah.
Based on estimate.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that all make sense?
Thank you. Yes.
Have all of the merit raises in here, have they been notified to the board at the time that they were made? Because I don't remember, all I saw was some employees' salaries went up, and I couldn't figure out why, and then I saw a list of merit raises that I wasn't aware.
No,
This goes back for a couple of years, it's nothing.
Merit raises are given to employees through personnel, through performance reviews, and then they're listed in their personnel files.
But they're not, the
They're
board
not-
is not notified at the time that this is happening?
No, this is all just this is more of a day-to-day operation that you give the manager that job, basically, is his job. All salaries are listed, through public pay and all that other stuff. But no, not every time there's a salary increase is the board notified. Okay. If you move to page 274, here's the union's ranges, which again were voted by the board through negotiations. And again, they are more set as a range. So they're in a set category, and again, and then they have steps. So this is different than management. So union employees have steps. So they have, how many is that? 10 steps? They have 10 steps. They start at step A, and if they get a satisfactory performance, they move to step B. Step B is a 4% increase. So that's what they get. So every time they get a satisfactory performance, they move from a step B to a C, and so on and so forth, until they hit J, and then they tap out at J. Again, these steps move with COLAs. So again, the steps moved with 0.3% last year, and but if someone was to be, let's say they got promoted from a range 8 to a range 12, then what we do is we move that person to the next highest step.
Whatever
that's
is
over
above
their
where they
current
are.
range.
Yeah, right.
So if they're making $3,000 on their range, then we would go down and find if the next range on that next step was 3,004, they would start at $3,004.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's it's the next highest within that range category.
I understand these steps were created by the board maybe 15 years ago or something?
They were created probably close to 15 years ago.
Virtually every organization, institution has something similar. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If a new position was created, then obviously you create that range. Like the IT position was a new position that was created. The board set the range on that IT position. If you turn to page 278, this is where it gets a little funky. Is that it's the water treatment plant, and they're treated a little bit differently. Their ranges are calculated at 1,872 hours a year worked, and their ranges are based on certification. So if you have a treatment plant operator who is a grade 5, then he's a treatment plant operator 5. If you have a treatment plant operator who's a T3, then he's a T3. So these are all based on their certification. So they don't get that cert pay back in the other one because their cert pay is included in their range. That's it. There's your education.
I hope there won't be a quiz.
Really, yeah.
Tell me the office manager's range.
I do not have a photographic memory.
Board education, best practices, we just talked about
that
that.
already.
Merit raises, we've talked about. Director's comments, and we start with Dan.
I have none. Thank you.
Wow.
I have none.
Geez, I got a couple. Thanks, Mickey, for the slideshow, or showing us what you did, and the educational page is going to be in the agendas coming up. Is that?
Yeah, it's going to be ongoing.
Is that?
Yeah,
That's
what we voted.
okay.
Good month.
Good. Okay, and let's see. I wanted a couple things. Actually, I kind of wanted to thank Cedar Creek for their work at the party in the park. It's kind of a tough venue, to get people to come to the booth and everything. But I tell you, they made it kind of fun and yet educational at the same time. I really like that. So they're not here, but thanks, Cedar Creek. Let's see what else here. I got a couple of things. Anyway, I'm going to. I think maybe Kevin signed me up for it's Aqua presents Marin Municipal Water District Mount Tam Watershed Tour Day. So I think I'm gonna go on that. If
you're signed up,
I'm signed up.
You're
okay,
signed
well,
up.
thank you. $50. I'm spending $50. I'm just asking for the fee on the. I'm not staying overnight or anything like that. I'm just going. Because I just think it'd be fairly interesting because they have an urban wildlife interface, kind of like what around our dams and our watersheds. So I think it'd be interesting. So.
Have fun.
Yeah, thank you.
It's your turn.
I have no comments.
No comment. I want to thank you for the support I have gotten from the board and the hints I have gotten that were personal. And I already said what I thought of the letter. So as far as the board, I appreciate Georgiana's help, and lately Kevin's been very helpful to me in putting together the thing on merit raises. And I've been on the board a long time, but I'd lost contact with those and really didn't know what was going on. And that's why I asked it, and I thought it would be a good thing for all the new board members to be aware of it. And Kevin did a good job. Thank you, Kevin.
Yep.
Now we'll go into closed session, conference with labor negotiators, district negotiating team regarding labor negotiations with general unit represented by IBAW, local 1245 pursuant to government's code section. And Emily's finally going to go to work.
You have to sit here all night.